last year's Family of the Year for Special Olympics, Kim Bates, all going down here in the next hour. So you see the next two people up on deck there. We'll get confirmation as to who they are in just a second. Could be Amanda Ackerman and Lynne Alfosni, but we will confirm that before we put their names up on the board, though. But Amanda and Lynne certainly are going to be going shortly if they haven't already. And so this will give us an opportunity. We have people coming in to chat with us about their experience. If somebody, you can take turns. We have one mic. You can both sit and pass it back before. And this is Gail Ziegler, works at Meadowood, correct? And she is joined by the person who went down with her, Anne Marie Harrison. And so I don't know who wants to go first. Both of you went for the first time this year. Gail, you got the mic in your hand. What was the experience like?
It was amazing. Everybody from the tech to getting us set up to getting us up on the wall, everybody was fabulous and just kept us calm and assured us that we could do it. And it was amazing. It was awesome.
Anne-Marie, your thoughts?
I loved it. I would go up and do it again right now. I'm so surprised how much I did like it. This was an awesome experience. I'm glad Gail and I both decided to do this together. I can't wait for next year. And we absolutely love Jeff upstairs. He just made this whole experience calming, and that's exactly what we needed.
Jeff Martin is who Anne-Marie's referring to. He's the site safety supervisor from Over the Edge. We've been told he's one of the best, if not the best, of the site safety supervisors they have, and you're reaffirming that. And we've had several people who have talked about how, first-timers especially, how the technicians make them feel so comfortable. You're watching here, or you can lean over and see the view here of the two folks. We watched you in this position, as did the rest of the world, more than 600 people tuning in and watching you. What was going through your mind, Anne-Marie? I'll start with you since you have the microphone, as you started leaning back.
Actually, leaning back was not hard for me, and they were actually making fun of me, trying to get me to laugh that I was an expert. I think doing the rock wall practice was a huge help.
Oh, okay.
So I think with just doing that a few times, that just helped me, and I felt really comfortable just leaning back.
And you're talking about at the Rock Gym?
Yes.
You did that. And
yes.
that, again, we mentioned that if you're just tuning in, though, the Delaware Rock Gym, Matt McCorkerdale and Ray Sheldon offer the opportunity for our edgers to go there and experience exactly the same feeling as Anne-Marie described it that they will have, although they're not on top of a building. Right. The experience of sitting back and trusting the equipment is the same. So, Anne-Marie, talk about your role at Meadowood and what you do there.
Over at Meadowood, I work in second grade classroom with Gail Ziegler. We have 7 special needs students in our classroom, and this is one thing. We participate in all of the events at Special Olympics. This past week we did soccer, and this is just something that we absolutely wanted to do and be more involved in the Special Olympics.
And Gail, I'll let you answer the question of what made you, was it Carol Percy that encouraged you to come out here, or?
We didn't know that Carol was doing it. We kind of were, doing our own thing in separate venues. We were checking in on each other, but kind of doing separate things, but all towards the same cause. I think the hardest part for me was sitting when they told me to sit on the wall.
Right.
I was terrified to look down. I didn't look down, and I think that'll be a goal next year. But once I sat on the wall, it was like, this is real and this is going to happen.
A lot of people say that the second time they enjoy the experience. Still a little nerves, but they enjoy the experience a little bit more. So, all right, well, thank you both for your support of Special Olympics and for stopping by there. Up on the ropes is Amanda Ackerman and Lynne Alfosni getting ready to come down, and we'll tell you a little bit about them in a second. But joining us is the father-daughter team of Dennis Miller and Valerie Dotson. Welcome to the broadcast. Thank you for going over the edge. Dennis, from North Carolina. So, yes, as far as I know, you're the one who has traveled the farthest to be part of this event. You said your daughter encouraged you to do it. You said your other two daughters think you're nuts. What was the experience like? My guess is maybe they're watching the live stream as you do it. So
one daughter's outside.
Oh, okay. This is your opportunity. Talk about the.
At first, I was scared, nervous, and as I was coming down, I couldn't gauge the speed of it, so I kind of lost a little bit of control. But I never felt terrified.
Right.
I just felt stupid sometimes because I couldn't control it.
You're not the first one, including the guy talking to you, who hasn't done that. Did you lock up at all?
No, never locked.
Okay.
And they said I was going pretty fast as I got down. They said, boy, you really coming. It wasn't on purpose.
Oh, that's good. All right, so Valerie, how much did it take you to talk your father into doing this?
Not at all. I was just kind of joking last year after I did it, said, who wants to do it with me? My dad said, me. And I said, really?
Why did you do it last year?
Last year, because I've seen the event a few years in a row, and I thought I really would love to do that someday, and I was getting older, and I'm like, I better just do it and
so
try.
now you've done it twice, third time maybe next year?
I don't know. I expected to not be as terrified this time as I was. So.
So were you?
Yeah.
Just as scared.
Yeah, I was scared.
We mentioned, and you'll see it when you watch the rebroadcast on your own time, you were taking some deep breaths up there on the scene, and it gave us the opportunity to talk about how it doesn't matter if you've done it before, it's still a little bit nerve-wracking. I've only done it once, but I know if I did it again, I would still be nervous. That part doesn't change at all. One sister here, the other one maybe watching at home. Any shot at either of them doing it again? Or doing it with you next year?
I don't know. I think Nicole might be up for it. I don't know if Christy would ever do it.
My wife will never do it either, so not alone there. Well, listen, we appreciate your support of Special Olympics, Dennis. Certainly, thank you for making the trip up from North Carolina. We hope to see you both again here next year coming down the building, but if not, we appreciate you doing it. So thanks for stopping by. Have a great rest of the day. All right, coming down now on the building, Amanda Ackerman on the blue rope, which means she is on the right, and Lynne Alfosni is on the yellow rope on your left. Both of them coming down the 17 stories to benefit Special Olympics Delaware. Lynne Alfosni works for Wisfis Bank. She is a first-timer coming down the building here, and it's on her bucket list of personal challenges. She wants to thank her co-workers at Wisfis Bank for all the fundraising that they helped her do and that type of thing. For Amanda Ackerman, she watches this every time from inside the building. She works here at PNC Bank, which is the other bank at the bottom of the building here. This is also her first time. She wants to thank her family, and most of all, her family and friends. This is her first, what she calls crazy activity, but hopefully not her last. And so, again, Amanda Ackerman is on the blue rope, which is on your right, and Lynne Alfosni is on the left in your yellow.
We just went over 1,000 total viewers for the day. 1,000
total viewers, which means we are halfway to last year's total. Jimmy, I think it was 2,000 last year, right?
Let me look that up.
Yeah,
I think it's something like that.
Something like
I
that.
think we're going to pass it.
Right. Or either way, we're not even halfway through this broadcast, and we're already at that 1,000. So that's wonderful that we're getting the word out. You know, obviously we're thrilled you're tuned in, but hopefully you'll share what you're watching with other people, because the way that Special Olympics continues to raise the extraordinary amount of money, almost $760,000, not counting today's event, is because people see it, whether it's on the live stream, whether it's live, whether they watch somebody come down at a viewing party later, and they want to be part of this event, and that's why it continues to maintain the steady pace of between 75 and 90 edgers every year coming down. An edger is what we call the person actually rappelling down the building. That's Lynne Alfosni on your left and Amanda Ackerman on your right, coming down the 17 stories right now. To give you some perspective, Lynne is about halfway down on your left, and Amanda is about a quarter away down on the right. Now, Amanda, we said this was her first sort of crazy thing she's ever done. Here's what Lynne Alfosni has done. She has climbed all the stairs to the top of the Eiffel Tower. That I could do. I'm not skydiving. I'm not scuba diving. I could do that. Has gone 180 miles per hour in a pace car around Daytona 500. Now, I have done that. I've done it down at Dover Downs, not at the Daytona 500, but I assume 180 miles an hour is 180 miles an hour. Whether you actually, I think I went more than 100. I think I was more than 180 because I wasn't in a pace car. I was in a real car.
Oh well.
Ridden. Here's Jimmy. Here's a new one. Ridden 150 miles cross country in 4 days on horseback in Iceland. So
I was gonna say that's more of a thing for the horse until the Iceland part.
Yeah. So,
but although I don't, Iceland's not as cold as the name. It's cold.
Yes.
As the name leads on, because I believe it's Greenland that's the colder.
And I think you're right. I think I've.
But
I've
Iceland's
heard that.
Iceland. It's not Delaware.
It's colder
so
than
it's
Delaware.
cold.
Right. It's colder than Delaware. You see Lynne Alfosni landing there on her left. I'd like to hear about this Iceland trip. I'm hoping we'll be able to get her in to talk about that. Amanda Ackerman is on the right and will be landing there shortly. So 150 miles cross country in 4 days on horseback in Iceland. Couple things scare me about that trip. Spending 150 miles on a horse, probably having to sleep in a tent for 4 nights, and being in Iceland. So, but, it continues to amaze me as you watch Amanda Ackerman finish up there, the cheer of the crowd. Looks like she has one of those pair of La Rues. Is that the new phase? I don't wear them, and I'm glad you didn't show up on them either, Jimmy, but that seems to be the new phase. First pair of those we've seen coming down here. Again, if you're going to join us on social media, use the hashtag #OverTheEdgeDE. You can also comment on the live stream website itself, and we will relay those comments as well.
So I got the number for you from last year.
Oh, great.
It ended up being 2,900
Wow.
that we had last year.
Wow.
So we're still on
We're
pace.
on pace.
That.
We're on pace.
So,
yep. And, those numbers can vary for a lot of different reasons. It's funny because somebody like, we're going to see Mary Ann Evans, who's going to go down for the 7th time in 7 years. She's coming up here, and she'll be one of the next few that come down. And the majority of the people that would tune in to watch her on the internet are here. And
right.
So, there's cases like that. And then there's the case of Dennis Miller, who we just talked to, and he came from North Carolina. So he probably has a lot of people who are watching him come down. And so, we appreciate whether you've tuned in for just to see one particular person or have tuned in for a while just to see the different experiences. We appreciate you tuning in. And again, if you're going to use social media, use hashtag #OverTheEdgeDE. As Amanda Ackerman officially comes to the close of her 17-story rappel for Special Olympics. This is the 7th annual rappel. More than $758,000 has been raised in the previous 6 years. So it's safe to say at the end of today we'll be over $850,000. There are 4,200 Special Olympics Delaware athletes who participate in Special Olympics year-round, both in schools and in 5 area programs that are located throughout the state here in Delaware. 19 sports, a lot of major events, and several smaller events. We had a school event go on Tuesday, which happened to be the largest school event we've ever had. Almost 700 athletes who came to the soccer event. And then we have our summer games coming up, which will be more than 900 athletes and unified partners who are peers without a disability. If you're listening to this broadcast and want to become more involved in Special Olympics, whether it's getting someone involved as an athlete, a unified partner, or as a coach, or even just a volunteer at an event, just go to our website, sode.org, and click on the blue volunteer button at the top of the page. If you want to support today's event and don't have someone in particular to support, I can tell you just about every person going over has their own fundraising page. It's on classy.org, or ask that person if you know somebody, hey, where can I donate to your rappel? Because they are still accepting money. They've all reached the minimum of $1,100. Some of them have gone beyond that. And certainly they will still accept donations. All the money stays right here in the state of Delaware. So if you know somebody who's rappelled and you want to give them money, find out what their page is. But if you're watching this and thinking, wow, what a wonderful cause, I want to give a donation, go to sode.org and click on the red donate button at the top of the page. Any amount helps make a difference for the athletes of Special Olympics Delaware.
So I think, based on reading shoulder name tag deals, that I believe that this is Kim Kanick. And then on the other side would have been Karen Grandell.
Okay, and I believe that was Karen. I happen to know Karen. I used to work with Karen, and so I think you are right, and that would make this Kim. It's not Mary Ann Evans. I know that for a fact because I know Mary Ann. So
I feel like I'm going on a limb there.
Kim Grandell, yellow. Kim Kanick, blue. Just came across.
Hey!
And so we got it right. Thanks to the folks providing us this information. A lot going on, and they're remembering every time to let us know who's going down and doing what. So Karen Grandell is on the yellow. That is Kim Kanick that you are looking at right now. Kim is one of several people who reached the $1,500 mark of raising money for Special Olympics. She's the friend of a Special Olympics athlete. His name is Connor Watson. I talked about how we'd have representatives from every area, and they are from the Sussex Riptide area. Connor, I believe, is in high school down there now. Connor, I've known him for more than 10 years, so it makes me feel old that he's actually a high school athlete from now. And Kim wanted to thank all the amazing family and friends for their support of this event. She is a 16-year polar bear plunger, and this is her first time going over the edge. So it's one of the events that often feeds into another. We find two things. We find people that plunge, and that's Karen Grandell on your right, again, Kim Kanick on your left. We find that the people who plunge, they are either really excited to do this event or they want nothing to do with it and they say, I already plunge. And we've seen the opposite, as we did with Ruth Lavelle, one of the first rappellers to go down this morning. She's done this 4, 5, 6 times. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but it's been several years. But she doesn't want to do the polar bear plunge. And so we've seen that both times, so it's just funny. And Jimmy mentioned this about an hour ago, so probably most of you did not hear it, about one of the great things about Special Olympics, and with the fundraisers in particular, there's lots of different, as he termed it, entries into the organization as a fundraiser. If you're a golfer, there's a golf event. If you're a runner, there's a running event. If you're an adventurist, there's this event. If you're a swimmer or love the water, there's the polar bear plunge. If you're a biker, there's the bike prologue. If you're a motorcycle person, there's the ride to the tide. If you're a truck driver, there is the truck convoy. And so Special Olympics has tried to hit on just about every segment of the Delaware population, that if you have an interest, there's a fundraiser and a way that you can support Special Olympics, as Karen Grandell and Kim Kanick are doing right now. And so that is Kim Kanick on your right, Karen Grandell on your left. I've told you a little bit about Kim, and not ironically, this happens a lot. Karen Grandell is also connected through Connor, who is Kim's friend, on a team called Connor's Crew. And Connor's parents are Cheryl and Jimmy Watson from Lewis, Delaware, both very involved in our program. Jim Watson is the basketball director for the Sussex Riptide. Has been a camp counselor for us. His wife supports Special Olympics, so a case of a family of a Special Olympics athlete being very, very supportive of Special Olympics. Karen works at the First State Montessori Academy up here in Wilmington. She is a first-time person going over. And another interesting story. You heard the story of Tony Nash earlier, who is a breast cancer survivor. Karen, and we share these stories, and if you're listening thinking, well, geez, why would you share that personal information? But that is often the story behind the story. And when the folks give us this information, they understand that it is going to be shared, and they want it shared because it is inspiring. But Karen Grandell is diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer and is reminded that life is very short. And so another truly inspirational story of someone going over the edge while facing other significant issues themselves. She has zip-lined and she's done diving in caves in Mexico, Jimmy. We've done the bungee in the caves and wherever that was. Diving in the caves in Mexico, and she's run 3 marathons. Now, marathons I would want to do. Mark Wise, who went over yesterday, he is as close to being a professional triathlete as you can be. And certainly is as good as the professional triathletes in his age group. He just has to have a job to support his family, so he doesn't do it full time. But he's incredibly athletic, runs triathlons, runs marathons, and I've always wanted to run a marathon, but unfortunately my 50-year-old body is too old to do that. But Karen has done that 3 times, and so it will be interesting to compare her experience and the exhilaration of going over the edge with what is, I would assume, a completely different experience and a different feeling and a different type of inspiration to run 26 miles 3 times. She wants to thank the staff at First State Montessori Academy, 2 students of hers, Tom Plant and Jackson Fox, and all her friends at ID Griffith Mechanical Contracting Company, and to her personal friends who have all contributed to her fundraising efforts. So Karen Grandell, who is going down on the left, Kim Kanick going down on your right. I hear some chanting outside from kids, Miss Grandell or Go Grandell, and so I assume it is the students in her classroom from First State Montessori Academy who are cheering her on. Karen Grandell and Kimberly Kanick going over the edge for Special Olympics Delaware there, and they are both about halfway down. It kind of looks like they're pacing themselves to stay together. They are friends, supporting Connor Watson, a high school age athlete who competes down for the Sussex Riptide in the Milton area, and so they are doing that for him. Knowing the Watsons, most likely they are outside cheering them in as well. Don't forget, if you're going to join us on social media, please use hashtag OverTheEdgeDE so that we can share it with folks that are out there, and that we will mention it on the air so that when the person you are supporting watches the replay of this broadcast, their segment in particular, they will hear your support in case they missed it on social media. You can also comment on the live stream page itself. If you are in front of a computer, there's an icon there you can click on, and we will try to read those as well. As you can see, Karen Grandell and Kim Kanick finishing up. Kim Kanick, a $1,500 plateau fundraiser. The minimum requirement was $1,100, and we've had several people who have gone above and beyond that and raised the $1,500, which means you get a special plaque with that picture, the pose of your hands out from the top of the roof with the city in the background as they are getting a wave there. That is Karen Grandell waving to her students as she makes that last step over the edge. For those of you just tuning in, that second floor, there is a little ledge there where the people at the bottom, the volunteers, actually pull you out away from the ledge so that you can continue down. It's not something, if you're watching this thinking, geez, I'm not sure I can manage that if I did this. Wow, what a group of students who came out from the Montessori school to support their teacher. Looks like the entire class. But that last ledge, when you get over that last lip, the volunteers at the bottom actually pull the folks away, the edgers away, so that it's much easier to manage that ledge. By that point, you are relieved, you know you're close, and you make the landing as Karen Grandell just did, much to the delight of her students, who I'm sure are happy to be out of class, but obviously are enjoying watching their teacher. And that's, we always talk about different ways people can recruit people to do this event. And, sometimes a school will get a principal. We've had principals go over. We've had, obviously, teachers go over, as we just saw. We've had CEOs go over. Last year, we had 4 of the higher-ups from Del Tech Community College go over. I think it was a representative from each of the 3 campuses went over. And so lots of different ways people can encourage other people to go over. And sometimes what it takes is someone who doesn't want to go over, but really wants to support someone to do it for the good of the cause. As we watch the next 2 people, that's Marianne Evans on your left. I know Marianne, she's going for the 7th time. She always tries to raise more than $3,000 to do this event. She tries to get $1 for every athlete, which this year would be $4,200. We'll find out when she comes in to talk if she's close to that amount. But the people who, back to recruiting other people, as we have a little delay here, not a delay necessarily, they're waiting for them to get saddled up to go over, is people, if you're listening and you don't want to go over the edge, we understand that, not everybody does. But my guess is somebody who would be willing to do it and probably even excited to do it. Jimmy's not raising his hand, he's raising his hand to talk about the money, but doesn't want to raise the money. And Jimmy, yep, you would probably be a perfect example of something. You've seen the cause, you've seen the event, you've seen the thrill. You have no interest in doing it yourself. No,
I mean, I've been a part of this event. This is the 4th year. We've done features on athletes, we've done other events. So, I'm bought in. Right. And so, my responsibility is to do that, financially or with helping how I can, because I'm not doing this, John, and it's been asked of me or suggested of me, and not happening.
Would your wife have any interest in doing this? Not sure, obviously.
I don't think so.
Right.
I think probably the closest I can get to a family member being willing to do this would probably be my mom. Right. Loves roller coasters. Mm-hmm. Is talking to my daughter. Right. Who doesn't understand about, Grandma and you are going to do roller coasters, and I'm slow down. I don't she's going to get my genes, my scaredy cat genes, so it probably won't happen. But so when you can't do that, you volunteer and you're a coach. You volunteer and you're a unified partner. You volunteer at events like this, and you do what you can do. I think, I don't know exactly what the saying is, but they say, your gifts are financial, your time. You probably know that. Well, but the general idea of that
time, money, sweat, or something like that.
If you can't do the event and raise the money, you can give money. Right. If you can't don't want to do those two things, you can donate your time or you donate your skill in some fashion. So again, going back to my point about the entry points of Special Olympics, that's what I think is really cool about the ability to get in and get involved.
Right. And this is Tyler. Speaking of that, this is not Tyler. I'm sorry, I was looking at another name. This is Shaun Malone getting ready to come down, and your point times in perfectly with Shaun. He's with Diamond State Roller Derby, and he said, "My roller derby team has nominated me to go over the edge because they love me, and who wouldn't want to send their head coach down the side of a really tall building to help raise funds for such an awesome organization?" So we didn't flip ahead and see that to create this conversation. It just literally is ironic that as we talk about that, here is a man, Shaun Malone, whose team, a roller derby team of all things, you don't hear of that very often, decided that they were going to raise the money for him to go over the edge. So an example of players raising money for their coach to go over the edge. So whether it's students raising money for their teacher, teachers raising money for their principal, employees raising money for their boss, players raising money for their head coach, a church congregation raising money for the pastor to go over the edge. Lots of different ways to do it. So if you're watching this event and you believe in the cause and you believe in the thrill of doing this, but you don't want to go over, try to figure out somebody who would go over and figure out how you can help that person raise the $1,100. You can sign that person up with a $50 deposit today. If you go to SODE.org, click on the Over the Edge banner, it takes you to the landing page, and there is a link there to sign up for next year's event, which will be on May 10th, 2018, right here in Wilmington on 300 Delaware Avenue.
I mean, the best move is probably to get the money, turn it in, then let that person know
that they're going.
In 3 months, you need to get mentally prepared.
That's right.
To go 222 feet down a building. Money's already in hand, so you got to do it.
So we have Shaun Malone on the yellow, Marianne Evans on the blue getting set to go over. They have begun their descent, so we'll see the side of the building here in just a second. Marianne Evans doing it for the 7th year, so that means individually she has, well, I know she has raised more than $10,000 in her 7 years. I don't know the exact figure, but I know she raises more than the required $1,100 every single year, and that's Marianne on the right. She's going down like a veteran because she is. She usually has a big crew. She was at the cocktail reception last night, her and her husband, big supporters of Special Olympics. Her daughter is part of the Special Olympics Delaware, Leanne Evans, one of the nicest people you will ever meet, and they are big supporters. They are very involved down as part of the Kent Crusaders. Her and her husband, they were key people when we made the transition from several community programs to the local program, or to the area programs there. Like I said, she's done it 7 times. In 1992, she did tandem skydiving. It was great. She does the polar bear plunge for Special Olympics every year. It was her 21st plunge in February, and she even does go under the water, which she wants to emphasize. That's a close-up of Marianne coming down right there. She wants to recognize everybody who steps up as her fundraisers, who's helped her not only raise the $1,100 this year, but more than $10,000 over the several years. Shaun Malone, who is coming down along with her, works for the Exelon Corporation. As we mentioned, he is the Diamond State Roller Derby coach. His players came together to help him raise the money for this, and he wanted to thank all of them for supporting him. This is his first time as an edger. So we've got a veteran 7-year edger in Marianne Evans who has already landed, and there is Shaun Malone. He is about at the 10-story level. That is where they check in, and it's very busy on that 10th story with people checking in. So a lot of times you got people looking out the window there, waving at you, tapping on the glass, and people always ask, are there people working behind those other windows? And the answer is yes. In fact, you've heard stories, and we'll hear more, I'm sure, of several people who have watched this event from the inside of their office and decided that, hey, we're going to do that this coming year or do it next year. And so Shaun Malone, not in that situation. He works for another company, but we have had cases where people who have worked in this 300 Delaware Avenue building that is managed by Brandywine Realty Trust have decided, hey, I see this happen every year, and we're going to do it. And we are located, our broadcast crew, right on the other side of those banners you see there, right in the landing area. We are literally on the other side of them. So we get to hear the action. We have a lot of TV monitors in this broadcast room that we get to see the action, but it's neat to hear the action, the chanting that we heard for Karen Grandell a few minutes ago. We can hear the music going on. We hear the yells and cheering of support. So we're not out there, but we are enjoying indirectly the atmosphere that's going on here at the 7th annual Over the Edge event to benefit Special Olympics Delaware. A shout out to our sponsors, TD Bank, Brandywine Realty Trust, the Newcastle County Fire Service, and of course, everyone who is part of this 300 Delaware Avenue building in any way, whether it's the security guard who has had to beep us in and out of this production room all day, those types of things, to the building manager and the folks that are involved in having to say of not only whether we can use this building, but the different ways that we're able to access it, whether it's a loading dock, that type of thing. So our sponsors, the supporting sponsors, Delaware Law Enforcement for Special Olympics, they've been raising funds and awareness for more than $6.5 million over the last 31 years. The Sheraton Suites, Wilmington downtown, providing the rooms for the technicians of Over the Edge. Delmarva Broadcasting Company, a year-round supporter, all the public relations and publicity they give Special Olympics Delaware. And you've heard a couple people talk about how nice it was to be able to go to the Delaware Rock Gym on a special night for Special Olympics, thanks to Matt McCorquodale and Ray Sheldon, who provided our edgers the opportunity to go and experience what it's like to rappel. Because that's the thing. Yes, it's different rappelling down a building than it is down a rock wall, but the feeling of trusting the equipment and hanging in the air is the same, whether you're 2 feet off the ground, which is what they practice on the top of the building here before they go, or you're 17 stories high. So again, if you're just tuning in, I'm John Busby along with Jimmy Smith. I'm a longtime staff member of Special Olympics Delaware. I've been at all 7 of these Over the Edge events. I have gone over the edge myself. Jimmy Smith heads up the production team of the live stream, has done it for now what is the 4th year in a row, the 4 years we've been doing the live stream. Him and his crew just do an excellent job. People don't understand unless you're behind the scenes what goes on behind the scenes of this production. So Shaun Malone is finishing up. And once he finishes, the next 2 will come down. Allie Woodard and John Woodard, what I believe is a father-daughter team, are going to be next. And they are a father-daughter team, both going for the first time. Allie Woodard is on your left there. So she is on the blue rope. And John Woodard is on your right. He will be on the yellow rope. And Allie's mom was a basketball director for the Newark Dragons for several years. Allie actually started out in Special Olympics as a unified partner. That is a peer without a disability, a big movement in Special Olympics around the world right now. Delaware's had unified sports for the past 30 years. And so Allie Woodard on your left and her father on her right, John Woodard. They are scheduled to go down at 12 o'clock, so we are 7 minutes ahead of schedule here today. Over the Edge event, which will run, our final repellers are scheduled to go down at around 4:30. So they're getting ready here, Allie and her father John, to take off. We'll tell you a little bit more about them once they begin their descent. You can see on the broadcast here, the camera is a little bit of rain outside, and I think the rain caught everybody off guard. We were expecting showers later in the day, but when we did pull it up a few minutes ago, it looked like it was coming. What they do is when the rain gets to a point where it becomes a safety issue, obviously they will stop, but the ropes getting wet does not impact the safety features of the mechanisms, and so a lot of times they will rappel through the rain unless it becomes extreme or dangerous in their situation. So up on the ropes is the father-daughter tandem of Allie and John Woodard. We mentioned Allie got her start as a unified partner back, I believe, when she was in elementary or middle school. She's now in college, getting ready to graduate, and has been a volunteer coach ever since she got out of high school. St. Elizabeth graduate. She also has been a counselor at our summer camp. She's done skydiving and rock climbing, so it'll be interesting to see her comparisons to those two things compared to going over the edge. She wanted to thank the faculty at St. Elizabeth High School, the Goddard School of Wilmington, Flying Hills Preschool, Delmarva Power, and family and friends who are supporting her financially. Delmarva Power also supported John Woodard, his co-workers and friends and family, and both of them are going over for the first time. John has been a supporter of Special Olympics, as I mentioned. His wife is involved in the management level at the area for the Newark Dragons, and Allie, of course, having been in Special Olympics for several years. So that is John Woodard on the left and Allie Woodard on the right. Anthony Borreggine, Special Olympics athlete, representing Special Olympics this year, going to get ready to go, along with Kim Bates, the mother of a Special Olympics athlete. Nicole Biles, Morgan Callahan, Patty Swain, and Nancy Gallagher, all scheduled to go here in the next several minutes. We're watching the weather, as somebody asked us, when do they call it? And as Jimmy responded, it's not our call. And it's not. We just continue to broadcast. We've tried to get cover for the cameras, and so that's taken care of. And so we just kind of, as long as we see people going, and you can see looking at that broadcast there, it's not pouring by any stretch of the imagination. The ground's not even wet, at least from what I can tell. And again, safety is the number one priority of everything Over the Edge does. They did tell us from a wind situation, which it doesn't look to be windy at all, looking at the flags in the background there. And the trees, that 25-mile-an-hour wind is when they will halt the event. And our site safety supervisor, who you've heard several compliments about, Jeff Martin, said that he likes to call it at 20 miles an hour. But again, doesn't look like wind is an issue outside. And of course, that's easy to say from inside here in the broadcast room, but doesn't look like it's an issue. There is a lot of rain in the area, moving from the west to the east. So, like I said, we are in a situation where we wait and hear what is going to happen. What we will plan to do is, if there is a break in the action, although you can see they're getting the next repellers up and ready to go, and we are right on schedule right now. The next two repellers are scheduled to go at 12 o'clock. Actually, that was Allie and John Woodard, and they are finished. So the next two repellers are actually a little bit ahead of schedule. And this is why they keep the event moving, even before the rain came. And so they run ahead of schedule. Just in the event something like this does happen, then they are prepared and hopefully can make that time up. But what we will do is, if they do take a break, we will take a break also. We do have some promos and things that we will run for people that want to or will stay in tune. And we will try to provide updates if we have any. We will post them that, the broadcast will resume in 15 minutes or what have you. But it's going to be one of those things, like with any weather situation, Mother Nature is going to dictate if the event gets stopped or if it continues to go. One thing I can pretty much rest assure you from looking at the radar is that the event will go on today. It's not going to be a situation where they are going to stop the event and continue it tomorrow, which would be an option if the event was going to be severe weather, and that's not the case. And we have one of the techs coming in to grab lunch here and reaffirming. He looks a little wet, so it must be raining outside. But it looks like this system that's blowing through is not part of what's coming on Saturday, which is, I've been told, basically a nor'easter with rain. And so this system does look like it is going to move through, whether there's a stoppage or not. If there is a stoppage, it's not going to be a long one, and that's, of course, what we are hoping. So we're waiting for word on who is up there next, and as soon as we have that, we can tell you who. It's supposed to be Anthony Borreggine, and that is Anthony on the left, so I can confirm that he is on the blue rope. And I do know Kim Bates, and so we will see if that ends up being her next to Anthony. Anthony, obviously inspiring that he's a Special Olympics athlete doing this, but the fact that what you can't tell from looking at that picture is he is legally blind. He is legally blind. And I can tell you that is not Kim Bates on the right. I actually think that might be, and we'll try to get confirmation of this, that might be somebody who has been assigned to go down with Anthony. To help him, to talk him through the experience. Obviously, it's a difficult experience if you have your vision. If you do not have your vision, and Anthony is legally blind, you can imagine the obstacles that presents, or the challenges that presents. And so to have somebody, an experienced edger, go down with him, my guess is that is going to be who is on the other rope. And so Anthony Borreggine there in your picture, getting ready to make his descent. When I introduced him at the cocktail reception last night, the roar of the crowd was unbelievable. Obviously, an inspiring moment to learn that there's a Special Olympics athlete going down over the edge with him. So that is Anthony Borreggine on your left, getting ready to take that first step back. And wow, he's done it as smooth as anybody we've seen. And they're adjusting his hand, getting that on the rope there. And again, kudos to the technicians that are involved. The ones you see there, some are volunteers, some are over-the-edge employees. But as somebody said last night, there is no way we could do this event without the support of obviously the over-the-edge staff, but the volunteers who come out, many of them year after year, to ensure the safety of our folks. And so it is Ray Sheldon on the yellow rope, and Ray is one of our volunteers that I just spoke of, who is going to go down along with Anthony Borreggine. So Ray Sheldon is going to be there to help talk Anthony through the experience if he needs that, and just to be there to assure him and to kind of let him know we're this far along, we've got this much far to go. The assistance that you would think you would want if you were visually impaired, which again Anthony Borreggine is. He's also, here's some other things he's done: whitewater rafting, horseback riding motorcycles with his dad. So he's not afraid to do anything, obviously. His fundraisers included his church, family, co-workers at High Point Dairy where he works, and the friends who work with Special Olympics. He's going to come down to the music played by Tim McGraw, Live Like You Were Dying. Kind of ironic, a funny song to come up with, but that is Anthony's personality. I know Anthony as an athlete, and he has a personality that would just say that right thing. So there is Ray Sheldon on your right. He'll be on the yellow rope, and Anthony Borreggine on the left as it begins sprinkling outside, but the event does go on, and it will be interesting to see here as there is a system moving in, whether or not they take a break or whether or not we continue to move forward. You can see I-95 in the background there. That is Rockford Park, and the tower at Rockford Park way in the background there. And so you can see it gives you some idea about that, of what these edgers experience when they are up that high and getting ready to go down. Once again, if you're just tuning in, this is the Over the Edge event to benefit Special Olympics Delaware. Thanks to our sponsors, TD Bank, Brandywine Realty Trust, and Newcastle County Fire Service, and also the supporters, Delaware Law Enforcement for Special Olympics, the Sheraton Suites right next door in downtown Wilmington, Delmarva Broadcasting Company, and the Delaware Rock Gym. And joining us right now as Anthony gets ready to descend are Allie and John Woodard, the father-daughter combination. And Allie, I'll ask you to grab that microphone first. You're a first timer. You want to fix your contact? That's fine. Give the microphone to your father. We'll talk to him first. Your first time. Hold it up close there.
Yes, first time.
What was the experience like?
Very nice.
Yeah?
Very nice.
Very nice?
Yeah. It was a little bit tougher than I thought, but I mean, it was good.
Got it done. Have you done anything like this before?
Yes, we kind of use a repelling system at work.
Oh, okay.
At Delmarva Power, so.
Oh, okay.
I was familiar with what was going to happen, just never this high.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. Was it raining yet when you were up there?
Yeah, that was a little bit. I thought that was going to be something with the glass in the sneakers, but it wasn't a problem.
That's what we've been told, and actually, this is the 7th event. It has never even sprinkled before, and we've got a system moving it. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
And they tell you it won't be a problem as you're going over the edge.
Right.
You know that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Once you're gone.
Yeah.
All right, Allie, we were talking about how old were you when you first got involved in Special Olympics?
Oh, I want to say 16.
Oh, well, you was that old. I thought it was younger than that.
No,
okay, as a unified partner. But anyway, you've been involved now. You're getting ready to graduate from college.
Yep, with my master's degree.
Wow, congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you become involved in Special Olympics? What got you hooked?
My little brother has autism, and I always had a passion for seeing how successful he was in competing in these activities. So I decided I wanted to give it a shot and fell in love and never looked back. I started out with Camp Barnes down the beach, and it was such a great experience for those 3 days that from then I joined Project Unify with high school, and then went on to bowling and basketball and soccer and track, and I think I do it all.
That's what I said while you were coming down, that you're involved in just about everything. Have you been able to get involved at your college? You go to college out of state. Have you been able to get involved in that at all, or?
I have done a little bit there. It's hard. I don't want to really cut the ties with Delaware, with college being in Pennsylvania.
We don't want you to cut those ties either.
Right. So I feel like a traitor. I did host one event at Alvernia University for the Berks County Special Olympics basketball team. Kind of as for one of my classes, we needed to do an advocacy project, and for me, to the school community, I hosted Special Olympics Berks County and put on a basketball showcase at the college. So that's as far as I've gotten involved with Special Olympics Pennselsylvania, but definitely my heart lies here in Delaware.
Well, we hope you come back, although
Always.
We wish you luck no matter what you do. But you've been a unified partner, you've been a coach, you've helped run things and stuff like that. If somebody's listening and wants to become involved in Special Olympics, no matter what their age, what would you tell them is the reason they should really consider it?
I would say the attitudes of the athletes really keeps you going. That's the best part for sure. The relationships I've built with them, and it's an incredible feeling. I never leave a Special Olympics event feeling like I have to come back. I want to keep going and volunteer my time. Now
talk about the Over the Edge experience for you. What was it like your first time? Which actually surprised me. If somebody had said, "Well, Allie's doing it," I said, "Oh, well, she's done it before."
Right.
For your first time.
Actually, I've wanted to do Over the Edge since I've started Special Olympics. I was like, wow, that looks awesome. I need to do that. But it always falls during finals week. So the timing never really worked out. This graduating Saturday, my last final was last night. So
wow.
And I knew that coming into this year. So I was like, you know what? This is my year. I'm going to do it. I finally get the opportunity. And then my dad was able. It was something we always talked about doing together. So I was glad he was able to do it too.
Think you'll do it again? Yeah? That's good. How about Mom? Any chance of her coming
No,
out?
not a chance.
We taled about her involvement in the program and
Yeah.
stuff. And it's funny, my wife's not going to do it ever either. So that's
Fear
funny.
heights.
Yeah.
But
Staying on the ground, looking up.
Was she out there cheering you on?
She was, yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you, obviously, for everything you do all year round, but, of course, for being part of today's
No problem.
event.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of
Shaun.
the day. Go out and watch the others come down now that you've done it. Thanks for stopping by. That is John and Allie Woodard, a father-daughter combination. We had a mother-daughter combination earlier, Ruth and Kylie Lavelle, one of the first ones to go down early this morning. And here at the noon hour, when we're really almost about halfway through, we had the John and Allie Woodard go through. Anthony Borreggine is up on the side of the building, coming down, the Special Olympics athlete, who is part of our program, has been involved for several years. It is sprinkling outside, as you heard them say, and you can see on the camera lens there. And they will continue to do this event. These are pros that run this event. We talk about the volunteers. Many of them are pros in their own experiences, but the Over the Edge professionals, headed up this year by the site safety supervisor Jeff Martin, who we've been told and we firmly believe ourselves is one of the best in the country, if not the best. They make the decision when this event stops, and they make it when it starts again. And safety is their number one priority, and so they will not take any risks, weather allowing. They will keep this moving, or if they decide they need to stop for whatever reason, they will delay. And everybody involved in this event, including the broadcast team, the Special Olympics staff, the volunteers, and the repeller themselves, have been prepared that this is what happens if weather becomes an issue. Now, the good news is, as I mentioned about 10 minutes ago, that it looks like if they were to have to stop because of rain, and there is rain and some of it does look heavier that's moving in, it looks like a fast-moving storm, and it looks like a storm that is going to blow through. And so once it blows through, as of right now, it is clear behind it. Now, as several people have said, it wasn't supposed to rain today, or worst case scenario, it was supposed to start after dinner. So this system did catch a lot of people by surprise, including the weather forecasters. So we're just in a position where we're going to sit back and see what happens, but at the same time, Anthony Borreggine, the representative, we've had a Special Olympics athlete go over the edge for the past several years, and he is the one who is going over the edge right now. So we're going to actually step off the air for just about 2 minutes or so while he does that, and we'll let you watch him come down, and we'll be back as the next couple prepare to go over.
Okay, let's keep clapping because Anthony is halfway down. And I actually just found out he is legally blind and he is participating in this over the edge event again for the very first time. So he needs to hear you. And he's doing this in the rain. And he is almost down. He really wants to shout out his church, his family, his co-workers, his friends, everybody who works with Special Olympics.
Anthony, this is the ground crew. We're going to pull you off the
Now let's
building.
keep it up. Keep that going. Fantastic job, Anthony, tonight.
Anthony, I'm going to go hands-on with you in a moment, okay? All right.
Anthony Borreggine has landed as Special Olympics athlete representative. He is legally blind, which makes this accomplishment just unbelievable. You can't imagine, those of you who are out there wondering, what it must be like to go over the edge, and you can see perfectly, and you know what you're experiencing. For him to do this, just what a wonderful accomplishment for Anthony Borreggine. Congratulations to him. And again, I'll reiterate, he was not given this spot. He raised the $1,100 that everybody else raised to go over the edge, and I just actually stepped out. The reason I wanted to get off the air for a second was to go out and experience the crowd as he made his descent, and he actually went faster than I thought from the 10th floor down. And so I got in here right as he landed, obviously, but I wanted to be out there and actually see and hear the atmosphere. You can see the smiles and the congratulations out there, and it really was just a really neat atmosphere. And it is drizzling, and it's drizzling to the point where you'd be wet, and yet the crowd is out there, and they hung out to see Anthony go down. And so congratulations to Anthony Borreggine, this year's Special Olympics Delaware athlete who went over the edge. And thank you to the volunteer Ray Sheldon, who went with him. Ray's been here, was here yesterday for training, and has been here all day and will be all day to volunteer for this event. So Anthony Borreggine going down over the edge, 17 stories, 222 feet, all to benefit Special Olympics Delaware. You can see his family and friends there. As you oversee now, you're looking at the view off of the roof for the skyline of Wilmington. And this is what the edgers see when they are up on the roof before they actually look over, is they see the building there, and that is where they get prepped and begin their descent over the edge. Rockford Park in the background there, I-95 there in about the middle of your screen right now, and the other apartment complex on your left there. So an incredible view from up top and an incredible view on the way down. We are more than halfway, or I guess just around halfway, with people scheduled to go down until 4:30. Kim Bates should be on deck along with Nicole Biles, Morgan Callahan, and Patty Swan. It looks like we're going to have at least a 5-minute break in the action. Not sure if it's weather related. They may do a ropes check. This is often about the time that they do that. But either way, nobody is harnessed up and ready to go. So we've got some commercials, some inspirational moments that we are going to show you about why Special Olympics is what it is and why people are inspired to be part of this Over the Edge event. So enjoy it, and we'll be back very shortly with the next Edgers.
Oh, the day David was born, it was a terrible storm. But he was born December the 6th, 1983 in Montgomery, Alabama at Maxwell Air Force Base. When he was a little boy, a baby, he was active, he was always smiling and grinning, and he was very loving. When he was 1 year old, we were on a trip and David had a grand mal seizure. There were no indications that he had any problems at that point. His language was developing normally. Just thinking about what it looked like, I thought he was really dying. From that point on, his language, the few words he knew, were gone. That was my first indication that something might be wrong, but I thought it was just a seizure disorder. Age 3.5, when he entered autism, we realized that language was his greatest barrier, and we began to work on the language. He had a babble no one understood. He had no recognizable words. It was 9 before we heard a first word, and it was done with a communication card and me repeating a word. And when I said water, because he wanted water, and he said water, oh, finally there was a breakthrough, and David was able to at least repeat one word that he understood, water. It still took us until age 13 to get him to string more than one word together and form a simple sentence. And based on his language capabilities.
That, as I mentioned, Nicole is an employee at TD Bank. She's never gone over before. She does admit she is afraid of heights. And Jimmy, that's one of the things I'm constantly amazed of as Kim and Nicole prepare to go down. Kim is a veteran edger. I'll tell you more about her in a second. But I am amazed at the number of people who are afraid of heights who go over the edge, because I've readily admitted that I don't think, I've gone over once, I would go over again, but I'm not afraid of heights. And I don't think if I was afraid of heights, I don't care what it would cost. I'm not sure I would go over for free, let alone raise $1,100 for a great cause. I would do other things for the great cause, but something that I can't relate to. Now, you're not afraid of heights, right?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Oh, you are? Oh, okay. Well, that explains why you won't go over the edge.
That ledge at the second floor is too high
enough
for me. So, but I think if you want to get over that, here's a means to do it, I guess, in a controlled setting. So maybe that's the approach. Maybe that's the thought.
Yeah, I don't know. Because again, I give so much credit to anybody who does it. It's obviously it's something that no matter how many times you've done it or what you've done related to it, it's still a difficult task to rappel 17 stories. But for people who are afraid of heights, it just I guess it would be the only thing I can assimilate to is if you're scared of flying, that you would skydive. You would do two things that would send panic through most people: go up in a plane and then skydive. And so if you're scared of flying, why would you do that? And so if you're scared of heights, when people who do this, and Nicole has admitted that she is scared of heights, and not admitted, there's nothing to be ashamed of. It is what it is, and that she is still going to go over the edge for Special Olympics Delaware. Don't forget, if you're just tuning in, we want to thank our sponsors, TD Bank, Brandywine Realty Trust, and the Newcastle County Fire Service, and our supporters, Delaware Law Enforcement for Special Olympics, Sheraton Suites, Wilmington Downtown, Delmarva Broadcasting Company, and Delaware Rock Gym. We also have guests from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Maryland Special Olympics. All three states are looking at possibly doing an Over the Edge event to support their own programs. Over the Edge, they do this event for a lot of nonprofits, but they've given us the facts on the Special Olympics events. They have run 209, so that makes this the 210th Special Olympics event. Almost 13,000 people have rappelled to support Special Olympics. This is now all over North America we're talking about. They raise almost $100,000 for every event they do, and that holds true here in Delaware. They've raised more than $20 million to date just for Special Olympics athletes around North America. They've raised more than $50 million for nonprofits. So here in Delaware, it's been an incredibly successful fundraiser. More than $750,000 has been raised in the 6 years leading up to this year. So certainly the $850,000 will be eclipsed, maybe even close to $900,000 before it's all said and done. This is a 17-story rappel, 222 feet, which we are told by people who have done buildings that are shorter and buildings that are taller, that this is the perfect height building. This building is owned by Brandywine Realty Trust. We approached them 8 or 9 years ago in the planning process, the beginning of the planning process, as to whether we would be able to use this building. And it's not a situation where you just walk in and go up the elevator to the roof. All the buildings that are used for this event, they literally have structural changes made to them on the roof to support the infrastructure that this event requires for the 100% safety record that they have. You can see those two pieces of equipment that I call them tripods. There's probably a fancy rappelling name for them that I don't know. We'll go with tripods. That the edgers start down on. And you can see our next two edgers, Kim Bates and Nicole Biles, are on their way down. That is Kim on your right. Nicole will be on your left. Nicole making her first time down. Kim, a long-time edger. But back to my point, and I'll tell you more about Kim, is they had to literally screw some structures in the cement and create supports at the top of that building that stay there year-round, so that when they come back, the over-the-edge crew comes back year after year, those supports are already in place, and they just screw into them and go on with the event. And so Special Olympics can't thank the Brandywine Realty Trust enough for literally the donation of this building for 2 days, because we were here yesterday, both setting up and also for the media rappel and then the cocktail reception in TD Bank last night. And so then we're here, of course, all day today. Arrived at 6 a.m. this morning. We'll probably be here till dark tonight cleaning up. And so it does create a little bit of havoc's the wrong word, because it's not havoc, but more of a crowd, with a crowd out front. It's not your typical Thursday morning coming to work here at 300 Delaware Avenue. And so we appreciate the employees who put up with the hustle and the bustle that's going on outside in the lobby, in the elevators, as we get people up to the 10th floor and then up to the roof while this is going on. So thank you, obviously, to all the sponsors, but especially to the building folks here at 300 Delaware Avenue who have embraced this event, and many of the folks both in this building and part of Brandywine Realty Trust have gone over as well. So we are back in action here after about a 15 to 20 minute break. You can see the raindrops on the camera lens. This event will go on until the safety supervisor deems that it is raining hard enough or the weather is enough to create a safety issue. We've been told, and we've been told this year in and year out, a steady rain is not a safety issue. The windows are not slippery. One of the rappellers who just came down told us that he thought that would be an issue, but it wasn't. And Anthony Borreggine, the Special Olympics athlete, went down in the steady drizzle. He made it. He came in here all smiles while we were off the air. He's actually going to come back and talk about the experience after he eats his lunch. We're excited to hear about that. He went down as quickly as anybody else and got to the bottom. In fact, he got down so quickly, I went out after he started so I could kind of get a feel for the crowd, because I wanted to be able to come in and share it with you who are watching and listening. And I didn't get back in time. I got back as he landed. I was hoping to get back when he was where Kim is, which is about 2 stories from the bottom. But I didn't. But unfortunately, I did get back in and was able to at least commentate on the experience as he was greeted by his family and friends as his descent. So this is Kim Bates, a longtime member of Special Olympics. Her son, Justin, is in the Special Olympics program. She works at the Leach School, which is one of our Special Olympics programs. They actually tomorrow have a huge event at their school for the Motor Activity Training Program, which is a Special Olympics program for athletes with severe disabilities who still want to play sports and be part of the organization. And she works at that school. She's also in the area. She's a sport director for flag football in the MOT area as she makes her landing. She's also coached young athletes and basketball skills, softball skills, and she volunteers with swimming. She's on the leadership team for the MOT Tigers, all volunteer work. And she says her most important affiliation is her son, Justin. Her family actually was named the Family of the Year, all of them involved in Special Olympics for different roles. And so a couple years ago, they were named the Family of the Year by Special Olympics Delaware. This is her 5th consecutive year rappelling, and she says she goes over because of her son Justin, the student she teaches at Leach, and all of Special Olympics Delaware's 4,000 athletes. Now, she has done tandem skydiving and zip lining. I hope she comes in and talks to us about that. I'm interested in the tandem skydiving. We've had a lot of people do a lot of crazy things in past years and this year that we've already talked about, but nobody done the tandem. I don't remember talking to anybody about tandem skydiving. Jimmy, do you? I remember the skydiving itself, but not the tandem skydiving.
No, and I think some people would rather do tandem skydiving, but I don't remember anybody talking about that.
Yeah.
I know maybe it's a polarizing topic. Would you rather be attached to somebody who could help you, or it's not attached to somebody and you're on your own, you don't have to worry about things?
Right.
We'll hear about it, I guess.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah, I'm not sure which I'd prefer. I mentioned that when we were talking to somebody else who
Either.
skydived. I said, I don't think I'd want anybody. I don't think I'll never skydive to begin with, but if I, for whatever reason, had to, I certainly don't think I would want somebody attached to me. So Nicole Biles makes her landing. Employee at TD Bank, one of the sponsors, and every year several of the folks from TD Bank go over the edge, whether they work in the building that's attached to the 300 Delaware Avenue building or not. One earlier came all the way from Bowie, Maryland to be part of this event for the third year in a row. Coming up in the next couple of the rappellers will be Morgan Callahan, Patty Swan, Nancy Gallagher, and Patrick Malloy will all be heading over the edge if you've tuned in to talk to any one of them. We are just about 5 minutes behind schedule, which really is pretty amazing when you consider the number of people that they've had to get over. We've had 39 people now go over today. 8 went over yesterday, so 39 out of 86. So we're not quite halfway, but getting close there. The rain looks like it is still raining a little bit outside. You can see the umbrellas and the people with the hoods up, but it's a light enough rain that the event is going on. Safety, as I mentioned, the number one concern for this crew, and so it is certainly something that if for any reason they think this event should be stopped, for any reason they will stop it. But you can see they're harnessing up the next two folks as soon as we get the information on who they are. It could be Morgan, Patty. I know it's not Nancy because I know Nancy, and I don't believe it's Patrick or Mark who are the next two up. So it's probably Morgan Callahan and Patty Swan. Patty Swan is on the yellow. Morgan is on the blue. So Patty Swan on the yellow. Morgan Callahan is on the blue rope coming down. Morgan is a unified partner and a coach for Special Olympics Delaware. And Patty is Morgan's aunt. So this is our first aunt/uncle, niece/nephew combination. So we have an aunt-niece combination. We've had a mother-daughter. We've had a father-daughter. And we will have a father-son later on when the Perillos go over at about 2:30 this afternoon. So on the left there, you have Morgan Callahan. And on the right is her aunt, Patty Swan, getting ready to go over the edge. In the background there, that is the Rockford Tower at Rockford Park. For those of you familiar with Wilmington, you can see I-95. That would be between the Delaware Avenue and the Route 202 Concord Pike exit there. That is the landing zone where people come down and land in that square. You see the volunteers with the orange helmets on there, making sure that the descent and the landing is perfect, which it has been in all 7 years now that we've been running this event. There is a little bit of a ledge there, that wall with the big squares you see, and that is the volunteers at the bottom help the edgers get over that only by pulling the rope out so they don't have to navigate that. You can imagine after you've gone 16 stories, you're probably a little bit tired and a little bit anxious to land. And so you don't need to worry about climbing over anything. They pull you away so that you can just naturally descend on your own. So Morgan Callahan has started her descent. Patty Swan is alongside her aunt. And this is Patty's first experience and also the first for Morgan Callahan. Morgan works at Twisted Frozen Yogurt in Middletown, and she's a unified partner for Middletown High's bowling, track and field, and soccer teams. And in addition, she coaches the MOT Tiger Young Athletes. That's Special Olympics program for kids ages 2 to 7 who are being introduced to the world of Special Olympics. She also volunteers at conferences and the Polar Bear Plunge. And she, of course, is inspired because she's seen how Special Olympics impacts the lives of the athletes who are part of it. Her only other crazy activity that she declares is the Polar Bear Plunge. Wants to thank everyone who has sponsored her for this event. Her aunt, Patty Swan, is retired. Her sister, though, is a special education teacher, and she thinks that Special Olympics is a great organization to raise money for. And she's doing it with her niece, as we mentioned, Morgan Callahan, and always up for an adventure. And she hasn't done anything else crazy, she says, but she says skydiving is next on her list of things to do. So Patty Swan going over the edge for the first time with her niece, Morgan. Lots of neat family combinations going over here. Remember, if you're using social media, please use hashtag #OverTheEdgeDE. You can also make a comment on the live broadcast itself if you would like to do that as well, and we will do our best to see them as the people are coming down and read them off, so that when the rappellers themselves go back and view themselves on what will then be the taped broadcast of this event, they will be able to hear your shout outs that you made there. And so we're enjoying the nice views there on the blue rope. It is Morgan Callahan, that would be on your right, and Patty Swan is on the left that you are seeing down the side of the building.
Which is pretty crazy because it is cold in January. So let's give it
More
up
than
for
$750,000 raised by Special Olympics Delaware here for the Over the Edge event, the 7th event, only one of its kind here in the state of Delaware. And so if you are getting the opportunity to watch this and you're thinking to yourself, boy, this is something that I would want to do, you certainly can register now for next year's event. If you go to SODE.org and click on the Over the Edge banner, not the one that says the live stream, obviously you already know where that is, but the one that has the banner for the Over the Edge, that will send you to the landing page for the Over the Edge event, and one of the top links there is to register for 2018. As you see Morgan and Patty coming down, looks like they're trying to hang together a little bit, and they're making their way down there, inch by inch. First time edgers, both of them, and able to complete this task in a slight drizzle. And again, we'll remind our viewers that safety is always the first priority. So if they deem that it is not safe to rappel down the building because of the rain, then they will hold the event up, allow the showers to pass, and then pick up where they left off. But it looks like for now they are continuing to go. When I stepped outside about half an hour ago, it was a slight drizzle, not enough to really get you wet unless you were going to stand out there for half an hour, but enough to make everything a little bit wet, as you can see on the camera lens there. Some raindrops on the lens. And as they get down here, coming down a little bit faster, it looks like Aunt Pat Swan is making her way down.
And she got started a little bit later.
She did, yeah.
She was hung up and
yep,
waiting to get going, and then here she is.
Yeah, it almost looked like she was nervous and hesitating to go, and
not anymore.
Maybe she's in a rush to get down. But
yeah,
either
right.
way, she has landed. Patty Swan, Morgan's aunt, completing her first ever rappel for Special Olympics Delaware. Says she's going to skydive next, and we hope a year from now, or actually 364 days, since it'll be on May 10th next year, that she is rappelling once again for Special Olympics Delaware. 17 stories, 222 feet. Here comes Morgan. Morgan's almost halfway down. Looks like she might have locked up. And again, those of you just tuning in, the lever that is used with the left hand of the person rappelling, you pull out on the lever. It's not a squeeze like it used to be 6 or 7 years ago. You pull out on the lever, and at your own speed, you come down. But if you go too fast, the lever locks up automatically, and it's not somebody watching it and pushing a button and locking it up. It just does it automatically. If the rope speeds through the tension process too fast, it just locks up. They teach you how to unlock when you're up there. I went through this when I rappelled a few years ago, and I locked up both when I first started, which they said is very common, and then I locked up about halfway down when, quite frankly, I got a little cocky and thought I would speed up. And so at that point, I had to unlock myself, which I did. And if you can't, for whatever reason, they have a radio on the shoulder, and they can talk you through it. And worst case scenario, if you can't get yourself unlocked for whatever reason, or at some point you just don't want to keep going, they will lower you. And it's one of the many safety features. And I can honestly say now this is my 7th Over the Edge event, so I've seen over 650 people go. and only a couple people have chosen to be lowered. And it was done very safely, and it was done very gradually, and they got a big round of applause when they got to the bottom. And so that's the way it was with a couple people. But by and large, 99.5% of the people get themselves unlocked, and they get down just like Morgan is here. And it's never a race, and we reiterate that when people sign up. It's kind of like when people do the polar bear plunge. It's kind of like you don't have to go all in. You go in as far as you feel you need to do to support the organization, and it's the same with going over the edge. You go at your speed that makes you comfortable, and the bottom line is when you touch bottom, you've accomplished something that you go to a cocktail party, you go to a room full of people, I guarantee you 99% of the people have not rappelled 17 stories down the side of a building.
And
So
when you get to this point that you realize you have the ability to say that.
That's right.
You know, you think about it at that point.
Yeah, at that point you know you're landing, and you're landing comfortably. It does look like she locked up. She's trying to unlock herself. And again, that's just part of sometimes what happens. She did go a little bit fast there at the end, and they pulled her away from the ledge there. And I can tell you again from having experienced this, by the time you've gone 16 floors, you get to that 17th floor, meaning the first floor when you're coming down. The last thing I would have wanted to do is try to figure out how to manipulate my tired body and stressed body and that anxious body, but yet relieved body, as you pointed out, Jimmy, to get myself over that final ledge. And so it's always a welcome sight to know that you're being pulled away there, and she is trying to get herself unlocked. The volunteers are trying to talk her through that process, but they'll get her down. And Morgan Callahan, a unified partner and coach for Special Olympics Delaware, here she comes, and you can hear the cheering going on for her as she lands in the landing area, having accomplished something that, you know, when you think about it, worldwide for Special Olympics, less than 13,000 people have done it. It's still an astounding number, but still in an elite group of people who have rappelled 17 stories down the side of the building. The folks in the yellow, orange hats, I can tell you, all the ones you see down there in that landing area are volunteers. Over the edge, there are 3 full-time staff members from Over the Edge who go from site to site, as Morgan gets a hand from her Aunt Patty there, who go site to site. They are all on the roof, and 2 of them are on the roof. One of them is in the training/staging area that is on the 10th floor. And so everybody else that you see in an orange hat is a volunteer, and in some cases the blue hats. We have a volunteer photographer right there that came out for the event. They'll provide thousands of pictures that'll be available for free download in the gallery. So our edgers who go over get not only the access to those pictures, but access to this broadcast as well. And as we mentioned, some of them just watch it themselves. Other people have viewing parties where they get together. And we were just telling the visitors from our 3 neighboring states who are considering doing the Over the Edge event and may want to do a live stream of that event. You know, some of the neat ways people have utilized this broadcast afterwards. And so Jimmy Smith and his production crew just do a tremendous job 4 years running of not only doing what a lot of people would consider basic stuff and we'd be able to just get away with that, but taking it to the next level of what can we do better, what can we get to. And, you know, 3 camera angles, names on the screen, stuff like that, all enhances the broadcast, so that what we try to do is when you tune in, knowing that people are tuning in when they've been told their friend or relative is going over, we like to make you aware and set the stage for you, everybody that does. And so if you are just tuning in, I'm John Busby along with Jimmy Smith. This is the broadcast of the 2017 Over the Edge event to benefit Special Olympics Delaware. This 7th event, it's raised more than $750,000 in its 6-year history. This, the 7th year, will certainly put that number probably up over $850,000. It benefits the 4,200 athletes who participate in Special Olympics. Coming up next, we have Pat Malloy will be on the yellow rope, Nancy Gallagher on the blue. And it looks like Patrick Malloy has already taken off. No, maybe not. Maybe that's Nancy. It might be a rope check.
Is that a rope check?
It might be a rope check. They do rope checks. Because Nancy Gallagher was definitely up on what will be the blue rope. And so we'll see if this is Pat Malloy or not. He's supposed to be coming down on yellow, but we didn't see him get harnessed up. And so that is probably Pat Malloy up there.
I don't know if that's even possible. I saw it. I definitely
So
saw
we think
it.
that's Pat Malloy there in your picture on the right. And that is definitely Nancy Gallagher on the left. I know Nancy.
Happy birthday. Let's hear it for Pat. Great
And it's
job.
Pat Malloy's birthday. So that must be Pat. That must be Pat who's landing. They're saying happy birthday to him. So Pat Malloy has landed. And it is Pat Malloy's 35th birthday. He's a member of the Wilmington Police Department. So Pat Malloy has landed. Nancy Gallagher is being harnessed up in the tripod up there. And she will be coming down next. So happy 35th birthday to Pat Malloy. And congratulations on your 17-story rappel. Pat Malloy has landed. Nancy Gallagher, the Special Olympics Delaware board member and employee at Bank of America, is next coming up.
Trying to go real quick on us, aren't
yeah, they're keeping them moving. Maybe there's a storm coming in after this storm that we don't know about. That was Pat Malloy's second year. He does it for the athletes. He's handed out medals as a member of the Wilmington Police Department, one of the many things law enforcement for Special Olympics does. He wanted to thank Ruth and Dennis Malloy, Jerica Diaz, and Chris Waters for helping support his rappel. So this is Nancy Gallagher on your left. She is on the blue rope.
I believe that's Mark Austin, just reading tag there on his arm.
So he will be on the yellow rope. He works at Logan Generating Plant. He raised at least $1,500, one of about, looks like 24 people who did so. Every person was required, actually I should say one of a dozen people. Every rappeller was required to raise $1,100 to be part of this once-in-a-lifetime experience, or certainly only time you can do it in Delaware experience. Special Olympics does own the rights to this event. And so if you want to rappel 17 stories down a building in Delaware, A, you got to come to Wilmington, and B, you got to do it at this one because there's no other event that will go on like it here in the state of Delaware. So Mark Austin is getting harnessed up. Nancy Gallagher is on her way down. As I mentioned, she is a board member. She's been involved with Special Olympics for more than 20 years in a variety of roles. She started back in 1999. She's actually volunteered at the World Games in North Carolina, and she has spent countless hours giving back to the community. A former basketball player, collegiate basketball player, and also I believe played professionally overseas. She's a member of the board of directors, as I mentioned. Most recently, she was at the USA Games in Princeton, New Jersey. She also volunteers on the Special Olympics Delaware Summer Games in the awards venue. So this will be her 5th year going down for Special Olympics Delaware. So she's one of those folks that does it year after year, not only to for the thrill of it, but to support Special Olympics. And this is Mark Austin that you see there at your screen getting ready to go over, and he's employed by Logan Generating Plant. This is his 3rd year going over. He's spent 6 years in the Marine Corps, and he calls that as a daring activity. And I can't relate,
I agree.
But I would agree with it there. So that's great. And we have someone joining us here in the broadcast booth. Have a seat right there. That would be great. Morgan, pull that microphone up there, and let's talk to you about your first experience going over the edge. And your Aunt Patty's with you, too. We'll talk to her in just a minute. Aunt Patty won the race down. Not that it's a race. But, Morgan, what was the experience like?
It was definitely an adrenaline rush. Halfway down, the building's a lot taller when you're like halfway down than looking up at it.
Now, did you lock up on the way down?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, they said I was the only one today.
I was going to say we haven't talked to anybody who has done that, but people do it every year. Don't feel embarrassed. I did it when I did it. So, but tell the people that are listening, because we've talked about it, but we haven't had anybody explain the process live. So what did you do when you were locked up?
So someone went over the radio and told them that I was locked up, and the people up top, like, I guess loosened it, and then I had to just like push it up, and then it unlocked.
So easy.
Super easy, yeah.
And a safety mechanism. Patty, I'll let you take the microphone for a second. Aunt Patty, we had an uncle-son we have an uncle-son combination. Anyway, it was neat to see an aunt and a niece go over. Who had to talk the other one into it?
Neither. She said she was going to do it, and I said, "Oh, can I do it with you?"
So an eager person. Are you glad you did it?
I am. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
And your sister's a special education teacher.
Yes.
So you've got not necessarily a background in special education, but you're familiar with the cause.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And you, Morgan, you are a coach with Special Olympics and have done some other things. I'll ask you to take the microphone back and talk about that experience and why Special Olympics is important and part of your life.
My mom is a special ed teacher, so anytime my brother and I were sick or we didn't go to school, we would go in and we would hang out with her students. So I had a love for them since I was young, and so when I got to high school, I joined Special Olympics and I joined Best Buddies. This year, I'm the president of Best Buddies. I've coached young athletes. I've played on the unified soccer team, unified track team, unified bowling. I think there's one more. I can't remember that.
Talk about the unified track team. Are you part of that this year, or was that?
I was a part of it last year.
Okay, and explain what that is to our people listening.
So we competed in 4 different events. We competed in the relay, the open 100, shot put, and one other one. Can't remember, but we ended up going to championships. It was a great experience. We got to travel to different meets, and we got to talk to other teams. It was really cool.
And it's a high school sport.
It
right?
is, yeah.
So it's an official high school sport.
Yeah, everyone got track jerseys that the other tracks.
Yeah, and so it's part of the Special Olympics Delaware's unified sports program in the high school. They're an official member of the the Delaware Interscholastic Athletic Association in both track and field and unified flag football, and it started with track and field, and so that's neat that you were to be able to part of that experience. And the whole purpose of that is to try to continue to reinforce the importance of everyone in a school, not just the star athletes, not just the best students, but that everybody has a spot and a role. Have you seen how unified sports has impacted your high school?
Yeah, we've definitely got a lot more people involved. We've gotten the athletes of the school, they hear sport and they want to join, so we've definitely gotten them involved. And the athletes make so many friends. They go down the hall and the students will see them wearing a jersey and will wish them good luck at their meet or at their game. It's really cool.
That's neat. Nancy Gallagher, landing a member of the board of directors of Special Olympics, certainly understands what this organization is all about. Patty, I got one more question for you. You said on your bio here that next up for you is skydiving. Is Morgan going with you?
Yes. My daughter did skydiving, and she wants me to do it. I'm like, well, Morgan, you're coming with me.
Is this the most daring thing you've ever done in your mind?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, what are you thinking about skydiving now? Easier? Will it be harder?
It'll be different.
Yeah, different. That's a good way to put it. I've always said, because I've done the over the edge, and I will not skydive. And so that's just the way it is. So I don't look at it as different. I look at it as something I'm never going to do. But that is not, rather than say it's going to be harder or easier, it's going to be different. Because it is. It is an entirely different experience.
Absolutely.
How you get up there and how you get back down. So listen, Morgan and Patty, thank you so much for being part of this event today. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
Go outside and enjoy the atmosphere, and now you can probably eat on a settled stomach. So, all right, thank you very much for stopping in. We appreciate it. All righty, Nancy Gallagher has landed. That's Mark Austin up there on the rope, and so he is on his way down. Again, he was one of the folks who raised $1,500 for Special Olympics Delaware. And so Mark Austin is on his way down. And you can see a little bit of raindrops there, but it must not be raining hard because that lens is looking up into the rain. And so I would think would be splattered if that was the case.
It would be pretty bad. Now, we've tried to clean it a couple times in fairness, but it's not nearly that bad in the reports I'm getting from the camera operators. So I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, no, it looks like they're going to plow through it. I'm looking at the radar myself. There's no yellow and there's no red, which would indicate a storm, and that is when, they follow the same basic safety protocol. Jimmy, you were involved in athletics for a long time, and, if there's lightning within whatever the distance is, they shut everything down, and it's not a choice at that point. It doesn't become a, hey, is it far enough away or too close? The siren sounds like on a golf course, and you clear it out, and I don't see any yellow or red in any of the stuff that's going to be moving through here anytime soon. So that is a good sign of things to come for those going over later. And again, we're confident that it's not going to be a situation where if they do have to delay, where they're going to delay until tomorrow. It would just be a delay until the system blows through. And so that's a good thing as well. Remember, if you're tweeting, please use the hashtag #OverTheEdgeDE. As people are sending messages over, we'll try to get them out there so when people relive this by watching themselves come down. Jimmy, when you get a chance, let us know how many people have tuned in. I always think that's an interesting stat. Not that it changes anything we do or doesn't change anything going on, but it's always fun to know who is watching and how many. As you see Mark Austin making a landing here on the yellow rope. And again, I believe this is his third year that he has come down. So Nancy Gallagher has landed. Mark Austin has landed. That means 44 people have come down. So we literally are halfway to the actually 79 people. We're more than halfway. 79 are going down today. 87 total will go down, counting the 8 media people that came down yesterday. So we are more than halfway through the 2017 Over the Edge event of benefit special.
And right now we're just at 1,800 people.
Wow.
So
1,800 people tuning in, understanding that you're jumping in and jumping out probably. And so anybody who has been on the broadcast for an hour, say, one of the reasons we repeat ourselves is we realize most people are jumping in and out. We appreciate you tuning in to this event. Again, if you're using social media, hashtag #OverTheEdgeDE. This is the 7th annual Over the Edge event for Special Olympics Delaware. More than $750,000 has been raised when it's all said and done at the end of today. 87 people will have gone over the edge for Special Olympics Delaware. And coming into the broadcast room right now is my most valuable player for people who have gone over the edge, and that is Anthony Borreggine, this year's Special Olympics Delaware athlete who went over the edge to benefit Special Olympics Delaware. And Anthony, why don't you have a seat here right behind you to the left, and we'll situate you with the microphone. And Anthony just got back from lunch, and we'll hold that up close to your mouth there, Anthony. And so you went over the edge to benefit Special Olympics Delaware. Anthony, what was the experience like?
It was awesome.
Yeah, and what way?
Just to know that all my donations, everything, and stuff to go towards my fellow athletes.
And did you raised $1,100, right? $1,100.
Yes.
And how did you do that? How did you raise money?
I asked donations from my work colleagues and my work and my church.
Were you nervous at all when you were up there on the roof?
Just a tiny bit.
Just a tiny bit. Now, you went to the Delaware Rock Gym and practiced, right?
Yes.
Did that help?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, and so they gave you a little bit more confidence?
Yeah, because I knew what kind of gear was going to be used, and I had a feeling for it.
Right. Now, whose idea was it for you to go over the edge?
It was mine.
Yeah?
I wanted to I've been doing Special Olympics for almost 20 years, and I wanted to give back. So I was going to do the plunge, but we couldn't get that coordinated, so I said, figure I'd just do this.
What sports do you play in Special Olympics?
Right now, I powerlift.
You powerlift. Wow. What are some of the weights that you lift?
We do squat, bench, and deadlift.
Wow.
And I'm racing John Scalosa and David Hill to be up with them.
Yeah, you want to try to be up with the best, huh?
Yep.
What other sports do you play?
That's the only one I pretty much do now. I've done several other sports with Special Olympics over the years.
Right. What is your favorite part about Special Olympics?
All the friends I get to meet, and all the people that I know over the years.
And now, so let me ask you this question. If there's some people out there listening to this or who will listen to it on the replay and they're thinking, geez, maybe, I could be a Special Olympics athlete and it's something that I want to do. What would you tell them? Why should they become a Special Olympics athlete?
To get involved with Special Olympics, or?
Yeah, to get involved.
I would say you're going to meet pretty incredible athletes and volunteers.
Well, Anthony, you certainly are an incredible athlete. I thought that before I saw you up on the roof today. And what you did is unbelievable. And I meant it when I said that, as far as I'm concerned, you're the most valuable edger today. You know the true reason why this event is important, because you're a Special Olympics athlete. You've had the experience of being an athlete, and you've reaped the benefits of being an athlete. But what you did today rappelling 17 stories. There's a lot of people who will never do that, and the fact that you did that, that has to be one of your proudest moments. Is this one of the things you're most proud of that you've ever done?
Yes.
And so congratulations. We appreciate you stopping by, and thank you for supporting your own cause, because there's nothing that tells somebody how important an organization is than when one of its own, a Special Olympics athlete like you are, raises the money to help support their own cause. And you said it best, you wanted to support your fellow athletes. So congratulations. Thanks for stopping by. Go out and enjoy the rest of the day. Have a hot dog and some pretzels and enjoy the festivities out there.
I will. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Anthony. Anthony Borreggine, ladies and gentlemen, a hero, certainly among several heroes here today. Anthony, a Special Olympics athlete, the only athlete to go over this year. Each year we've had a Special Olympics athlete go over for the last several years. Anthony was this year's athlete. You're seeing Brian Ray on the yellow rope, Diane Salvatore on the blue, getting ready to come down. So Brian Ray on the yellow and Diane Salvatore on the blue coming down. Diane works for Del Calo and Salvatore Realty Team, and Brian Ray is a Special Olympics parent, but also he's the headmaster at St. Edmund's Academy. We'll tell you a little bit more about them as they descend. That is Diane on your right and Brian on your left, coming down here as the 44th and 45th edgers today. So Brian's son Matthew has Down syndrome. He's 10 years old. He's participated in Special Olympics in Virginia as a bowler and the Young Athletes program. Now that he's here in Delaware, he's continued to bowl, but he's also added swimming and basketball to his repertoire. Brian is going over the edge for the first time. His inspiration obviously is his own son and also what he has seen Special Olympics do for other Special Olympics athletes. And so he's done a 20-mile bike race and a 62-mile bike race. So not necessarily anything daring, but certainly an accomplishment for him. And he wants to thank Mike Nash and Bill Braccato for supporting him as he is going over the edge. And Diane Salvatore, we do not have any information on. So she was not able to return that for us, so can't tell you much about her other than she is with Del Calo and Salvatore Realty Team, so I would assume is a real estate agent. You can see the water on the lens and the view that you've got there, and that is...
It's an uphill battle, John.
it's an uphill battle, and it is what it is, and you can't cover up the lens.
Nope.
The rest of the camera can be covered up, but actually, to be honest with you, of the three camera angles, Jimmy, and you're the pro, this is the one you would want the drops on because you really don't get a clear view other than the bodies because it is what it is.
Yeah, this one's okay.
Right.
And I think, it's getting a point,
Yep.
getting the point across
Yes.
that it's raining.
They're coming, and it's raining, and B, two people are coming down the wall, and,
Yeah.
and we're telling you who is who. It's Diane on the right and Brian on the left. You're not going to see facial expressions if the weather was perfect, like you do on those other camera angles, and that's
Right.
why, personally, my choice would be that if we're going to have raindrops, it should be on this lens, and that's just the way it is. As long as it's raining, it's going to be. And fortunately, it has not impacted the broadcast, and it has not impacted the event. We had a slight delay, but it was not weather related. There was they got a little behind in the training upstairs, but they picked right back up, and we are right on schedule because these folks were scheduled to go over a little after 1 o'clock. Brian Ray was scheduled at 1:20, and that's exactly where we are at. And so Diane on the right, Brian on the left, heading down to benefit Special Olympics. 17 stories, 222 feet if you're just tuning in, $1,100 to be part of this event, sponsored by TD Bank, Brandywine Realty Trust, and Newcastle County Fire Service. Brandywine Realty Trust owns this 300 Delaware Avenue building. Newcastle County Fire Service is a financial sponsor, as well as having several of their members go over the edge and volunteer here. Obviously, they've got experience rappelling and using ropes in their fire rescues. And again, we want to pass along our condolences, even though it happened several weeks, even a couple months ago, to the 3 firefighters lost here in Delaware in the line of duty, as well as Corporal Stephen Ballard of the Delaware State Police in that tragic event a couple years ago. There are several members of law enforcement who have gone over and will go over today, and so we would be remiss not to mention both of those situations that have gone on since our last broadcast a year ago. As you can see, Diane Salvatore is making her descent. She kind of went over like it wasn't her first time, but again, we're not 100% sure whether it was or not. As she makes the landing there, the volunteers will take her gear off. All new gear this year. Noticed that yesterday, asked that question, and sure enough, all new gear. In the past, kind of they would piece it together. Everybody had the exact same gear on. It wasn't like they would say, oh, well, we don't have that piece, go ahead without it type of thing. Certainly that wasn't the case. But this year, what happens is they take the whole gear off. It's like taking a jumpsuit off, I guess, for lack of a better term. It's all in one piece. It comes off, and it goes back up for the next person as Brian Ray makes his landing as well. His first time going over the edge. Ashley Stetzer, Kimberly Grebe, Scott Rickards, and Ted Reiver. Ted, I know, a long-time edger. They're getting ready to go over shortly if you've tuned in to see any of them. I'm John Busby along with Jimmy Smith. I'm a longtime staff member here at Special Olympics Delaware. Been to all 7 over-the-edge events, all 4 of the live streams. Done the event myself a couple years ago. Jimmy Smith has been involved in all 4 live streams and is the reason for this, the wonderful camera angles you're getting, the different camera angles you're getting, and the action that you see. This is my favorite shot. It's fun seeing them come down the building. It's fun seeing all the congratulations at the foot of the building. But this is my favorite shot. This is when you get to see the expressions. No matter what that expression might be. This is when you get to see the amount of time and effort that goes into the safety aspects of this event. You've got 3 people there, the technicians, and that is the site supervisor you just saw pop into the picture there, Jeff Martin, and he has, as he said, he has the final call on everything. And so whether it's weather-related, whether it's an equipment, something with the equipment, something with a rope, what have you, he has the final say of everything. That's what he is paid to do. And that's what gives people the utmost confidence. I know it gave me the confidence when it was my turn to go over that this was going to be a successful event. Sure, nerves, yes. Heart rate, yes. All of that. But I had complete confidence when I went up to that 17th floor that I was going to land softly in the landing area and hug my wife and kids at the bottom, and that's exactly what happened. So we are waiting to find out who these folks are. Jimmy?
It's going to be Scott Rickards on the yellow and Kimberly Grebe on the blue.
So there you go. Our next 2 coming down. Scott Rickards works for Capital One. We'll get you more information about Kim Grebe if we have it. Actually, we do not have a bio in there. But joining us is Nancy Gallagher of the Special Olympics Delaware Board of Directors. Nancy, 5th year going down.
That's correct.
And does it change? Does it get better? Does it stay the same for the 5th year, 4th year, 3rd year?
I think there's a little bit of familiarity with it, obviously, with the process, but never each time. I mean, when you go up on that roof and you're looking out, it's just a distinctful view. Yeah. And it's a, oh my gosh, this is awesome, and it's a, oh my gosh, this is happening.
Right. It's still 17 stories.
Right.
So whether you're hooked to a rope, not, or whether you've done it 5 years or 15 years. Let me ask you, because you've done it before, the method of the training they do on the roof has changed. When I did it, when you've done it in the past, you actually climbed the ladder up to a roof of what I call a shed up on the building. It's another floor of the building. This year they've changed it to where you just take a couple steps up a step ladder and you hang off a tripod similar to what they've got rigged here that folks are looking at right now. And so you get that feeling of this is what it's going to feel like when I'm suspended. You get to take, better, worse, the same. What would you, if you, having done both now, what would your preference be to prepare for when you step over that edge there and have that same feeling? Think back to the first time you did it, not because this is your 5th.
Right. Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think that if it was my very first time, knowing what I got out of it the first time going over the shed piece of the wall was very comforting.
Right.
There again, though, I tell people take advantage of the rock wall events that Special Olympics put on for practice sessions.
Right.
But today, being able to go up there and to hang off the wall, get in your saddle, so to speak, it was comfortable.
Raining, drizzling when you came down. Any impact? Was there any anything you had to negotiate differently than you have when because this is the first time we've ever had rain in 7 years.
Yeah.
So.
No, not at all. And actually, I was saying there was a gentleman that went next to me, Mark Austin, and both of us commented, didn't even make a difference.
Right. That's good
it didn't
to hear.
make a difference.
We've been talking about how the site safety supervisor will make that final call, and safety is always the number one priority. And until that call is made, we assume, or we know, we don't assume, we know it's safe. And so that's good to hear it firsthand. Last question for you. You've been involved in a lot of different roles in Special Olympics from a coach way back, still coaching some, and now as a member of the board of director. Why is this organization so important to your life, but just as importantly, so important to the state of Delaware?
Yeah, I think that when you look at the individuals that are thriving because of the organization, that's it. I mean, that's the critical piece right there. They are inspiring, but it is something all of us can relate to. We all have our weaknesses, we all have our strengths, and everybody's their own individual person. And to be able to provide an environment for them to be able to thrive is awesome.
Yeah. And Anthony Borreggine, who we just had in here, who is legally blind, a Special Olympics athlete, he told me not off the record, offline at the reception last night, that the reason he had the confidence to do what he did today was because of the confidence he's gained through Special Olympics. So
that's terrific.
Thank you for stopping by. Thanks for being part of the event, and we'll see you at Summer Games.
Absolutely. Thanks, John.
Nancy Gallagher going over for the 5th time, and on the ropes right now we have Kimberly Grebe and Scott Rickards. They've just taken off down the side of the building, and you'll see them here shortly. And coming up, joining us here is Mark Austin. Have a seat, sir. Brian Ray, right? Have a seat. Grab the microphone here. Brian Ray is joining us. Kim Grebe is on the right. Scott Rickards is on the left. And we're going to talk to Brian Ray in just a second. I want to get some information. Brian, you're the headmaster of St. Edmunds Academy, SEA, and I knew that. I was at your school for a lacrosse tournament last weekend. Yeah, I was there. My son played in a great facility. Boy, your fields are as nice as the University of Delaware's. You guys do a good job taking care of that.
Appreciate that very much. Thank you.
There he is. His microphone. I flipped it off when I handed it to him. I'll take the
blame
for that.
That's all good.
Brian Ray, St. Edmunds, the headmaster of St. Edmunds Academy. The only thing you missed was me talking about how nice the fields are at St. Edmunds Academy because my son was playing lacrosse there. As you see, folks landing here, boy, these people zip down. This is why we don't take commercial breaks. You've got Kim Grebe on the right getting ready to land, and having already landed is Scott Rickards. So their rappel is over just like that. And Brian, your first rappel, what are your thoughts on what you went through?
It was great. Really enjoyed it. You had a few tense moments there at the top. When they ask you to look over the edge, my advice is don't do that next time. But once you got going, you got down. Before you know it, you were down at the bottom. And it was a great time, and I even said to Ann Grunwald on the way out, sign me up for next year.
There you go.
I'm in.
We like to hear that. That's great. Your son is involved in Special Olympics. You came from Virginia. I happened to be down in Virginia Special Olympics a couple weeks ago.
Oh, nice.
Great organization, great people that run the show down there. You have come here to Delaware. Your son started as a young athlete. We've mentioned that program a few times.
Correct.
And so your son is, one of the ones who starts as almost as young as you can, and you've seen the difference Special Olympics has made in his life as he's gotten older and become more involved in sports. Talk a little bit about that.
I have. We started with Special Olympics with young athletes. We actually started with bowling. Tried soccer one season. That wasn't his thing, but he loves to bowl. We did basketball since we moved up here, and we do swimming right now. And so I think for all those events, what I love about it is it's not just about Matthew. It's very inclusive of the entire family. And I think that's an important piece. The Special Olympics is about the athletes, about empowering them, about having them play sports and get involved. But it also includes us as family members too. And I think that's important because, Maddie's a great kid, but when his sisters are involved and his brother's involved, he's that much more into it.
Right.
Which is great.
It's a true family affair. And that's what, we always say it frustrates us as a staff sometime when a parent will say, well, we can't bring Jimmy to practice because we got to take Joey to Little League.
Mm-hmm, right.
Well, Jimmy's practice is just as important as Joey's, and it sounds like you're hammering that home.
Yeah, we are, and it's a great dynamic, and everyone I've run into in Special Olympics is wonderful. All the volunteers, which I know it's a big, that's a big part of this organization, the volunteers. So, for everyone, if you have time, get involved. It's so worth it, it's so rewarding. And I think just as a parent, everything I can do to help support the organization is important.
Well, we appreciate your support today.
Absolutely.
We'll look forward to it. Is he coming to Summer Games? Matt going to be at Summer Games?
Not sure yet. We may be out of town that weekend, unfortunately. But it's something to it at St. Edmunds that we believe in. We believe getting involved and helping out the community the best we can. And Larry Meister and Mike Nash, who are two of the board members, have sons at my school, and Larry talked me into this. Thank you very much. And
I haven't seen Larry come down the side of the building today. He's gone.
He's gone down before. Yeah. Maybe he and I will challenge today. And I think Tony Nash, Mike's wife, went down earlier today.
Yes, she did.
And did a great job. So. We're just always looking ways how we can connect with you guys.
Is Larry here today? Have you seen him?
I have not seen him yet.
If you see him, send him in.
I will.
It's
good.
He's a great story about it. The only reason he's involved in Special Olympics is because we're using this building.
Yeah, right.
That's how he got started.
Right.
It's a great story.
Right.
So anyway, all right, Brian.
Thank you so much.
By.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for being part of the event, and I'm glad to see you're committed for next year.
Absolutely.
All right, Brian.
Bye.
Brian Ray, the headmaster at St. Edmund's Academy, who is heading out now and probably much more relaxed than when he headed in here.
So there's a look at Ted Reiver. And nobody on the, the blue side? Yellow side. So just one right now. It's Ted.
Ted Reiver is involved in our Special Olympics Healthy Athletes program, Opening Eyes. He's a member of the Lions Club. He has come down for several years. Get that exact information for you, but he is involved. He and his wife, Ann Reiver, are Lions Club members. They're involved in the Healthy Athletes program, particularly the Opening Eyes at our summer games, and that is where I'll use the Opening Eyes as an example. There's also Fit Feet, Healthy Hearing, and Special Smiles. But in the Opening Eyes program, our athletes get an eye exam, just as if they went to the eye doctor completely free. And if they need glasses or they need new glasses, they have an opportunity to get those free as well. So it really is an outstanding program that is offered and funded through various organizations, the Lions Club being one of them, not only here locally, but nationally and internationally. And so Ted Reiver has been a big part of that. His wife, Ann, who is probably on the ground supporting him, a big part of that effort as well. So Ted Reiver getting ready to go over the edge. You can see in that shot the rain is still coming down. And so the ropes there, they're wet. But as you heard Nancy Gallagher say a few minutes ago, it didn't impact their rappel at all. In fact, she's done it now 5 years. And she said it was no different than the fourth year, the third year, or any other year when we had perfect weather. You can see the technicians are in the rain gear up there, and nobody's going to melt, Jimmy, coming down the side of the building here.
No, and nobody's slipped either, as you mentioned, that Nancy had mentioned. So I think we're good.
Yeah.
You see the rain hitting it now.
Yep. Yeah, the rain. There's no doubt rain's coming down, but it seems to be as safe as it can be. I know it must be, because they wouldn't be going on if that wasn't the case. And you can see Ted making his descent there.
And it's a mental thing, and you just pulled up the radar.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going
It's
anywhere.
not going away anytime fast. It doesn't look like. But as I said a few minutes ago, and I'll reiterate, there's no yellow and there's no red, which is, that would be when they would stop the event, is if there was lightning in the area. But there does not appear to be lightning in the area there. And so looks like, although it is raining outside, that it's not going to be raining hard enough to stop the event here. And so we are continuing to roll, waiting for the next person to get up. That's Ted Reiver. You see on his way down, we are pretty much right on schedule. Ted was scheduled to go at 1:30, and it is 1:32 according to my computer. Do you have a total number for us of people who are tuned in, Jimmy?
Hold, please.
We will hold while we get that number. We had close to 3,000 last year, and it's not a numbers game, obviously, but it is always just, I think people would want to know how many people are tuning in, and it makes us excited that the amount of effort and time that Jimmy and his crew have put into today's broadcast is being appreciated by people probably all over the world.
1927.
All righty, so we are just shy of 2,000 people tuning in, and we're about 2/3 of the way through the event. And I've got the radar, the future radar, showing up, and it looks like there could be a drizzle here for the rest of the afternoon. But again, it doesn't look like anything heavier than what's going on right now. And so that's the bad news and the good news. The bad news is it probably is going to be a slight drizzle here for the rest of the afternoon. The good news is it does not look like it's going to impact this event if they continue on the pace that they're going on right now with the same theory that this rain is not dangerous enough to stop the event. Again, a reminder, if you're tuning in and you tweet or you want to leave a comment on the live stream, please feel free to do so. Please use hashtag #OverTheEdgeDE. That not only allows us to give you a shout out from whoever you're supporting or to whoever you're supporting, but it allows us to share that message on social media so people around the world know that you are supporting this event. And so there we have the next person up. We know it's not Ted Reiver because he's on the way down. Ashley Stetzer was scheduled to go down before Ted, but sometimes, for whatever reason, they mix the lineup a little bit up there. It may also be Tami Wilson is on deck, Lynette Molnack, Melissa Renzi, and Heather DiRubio. So if you're just tuning in, those are the next few people who are scheduled to go down there. And we're waiting for the message of exactly who that is. Ted is halfway down, it looks like. And he's going step by step on those windows. There's always the running joke that they should bring cleaner with them and clean the windows while they're on the way down here. And gives you a whole new appreciation for the people that do that job, because those windows don't get cleaned from the inside.
That is Tami up top. So and look, you can see the rain is really picking up.
It's picking up, yeah. Tami Wilson will be on the left when she comes. She's going to be on the yellow rope. That is her. And this is her first time going down. You can see she looks a little nervous, and I don't blame her. You know, you throw in the nerves to begin with and the fact that it's drizzling. And we do alert, Special Olympics does alert the edgers ahead of time that if it is raining, the event is going to go on until it is deemed unsafe. And as we've mentioned a couple times, a wet rope does not change at all the safety of the mechanisms. They still work. It's not based on a slippery or friction. They're made to be able to survive weather like this, as you can imagine, and in more serious situations where people are on ropes for rescues and things like that. The rain cannot stop it, and these are the same types of mechanisms and equipment. You can see the volunteers up there. Even there, that's a great shot of the green ropes coming out of the backs of the volunteers. Those are the pros, and they are still harnessed up there. That is the type of safety that is put into this as Ted Reiver makes his landing. He didn't give us a bio sheet. I'm hoping he stops by. I'd like to know how many times he's done this. I know it's not 7 because we've only had 3 people do all 7, but Ted, I expect, has done it at least 4 or 5 times. But again, back to my point about the safety on the roof in particular, everybody up there is tethered to a cement structure. So in other words, even whether you're taking pictures or whether you are just a tech who's paid full-time to do this every day of the week, you are still tethered up there. So it literally is impossible for you to go over. And so that is the amount of safety and effort, as you can hear the cheers in the background there for Ted Reiver, longtime supporter of Special Olympics through the Lions Club and also just in general as a volunteer going over the edge for Special Olympics Delaware. Today is the 7th annual event, an event that has raised more than $750,000 for Special Olympics Delaware. Tami Wilson is up next, and she works for Richards, Layton, and Finger, public accountant. She's a volunteer for Special Olympics. And it said here, when we asked her to repeat edger, she said no, meaning it's her first, but she will be next year. I mentioned earlier about how 35% of the people who are rappelling today have rappelled before in this event, and that is an extremely high number compared to the national average of events who have repeat folks. And so we are extremely proud. Special Olympics is extremely proud of that number. We firmly believe it is because of the cause, more so than the thrill, although the thrill is certainly part of it, as you've heard quite a few people talk about how they love the experience and they can't wait to do it again. The thing that gets most of these people out here is the cause. Special Olympics Delaware, 4,200 athletes competing in 19 sports year-round. The big summer games are coming up here on June 9th and 10th at the University of Delaware. If you want to come out and you want to see the action live, there'll be 900 athletes and unified partners who will take part in the summer games in the sports of bocce, track and field, tennis, softball, and powerlifting. It is just a tremendous event for the Special Olympics athletes to be part of at the University of Delaware. There will be a young athletes demonstration as part of that as well. Bocce is another sport. That was the one I left out. I knew I left one out there. Takes place in first-class venues at the University of Delaware. You can see Tami Wilson's not having any trouble coming down the side of the building there. She's almost halfway down. Not bad for anybody, let alone a first-time edger.
She's waving at somebody in the 10th floor.
Getting the wave there as she makes her way down. So you can see, again, we've reiterated the rain is not impacting, A, and most importantly, the safety, but B, the performance of the folks that are coming down here. And so she is getting ready to land, Tami Wilson, and we'll see who's up next. I don't recognize the name. Might be Sidney Berkey. He's one of the men coming up, maybe Raymond Cool. And so we're more than halfway through here. Almost 2,000 people have tuned in to the live stream broadcast. Amy Wilson, you can hear people yelling for her from below.
Okay, let's give it up. She is almost completely over the edge, Tami. Great job for your first
And she's getting ready to make her final descent. There's that ledge. If you're just tuning in, we talked about the volunteers at the bottom actually pull the edgers away from that so they don't have to manage that for their final story, meaning the 17th story when you're going from the top to the bottom, that they have to manage. And so Tami Wilson has landed. And so we continue to make our way through here. That means that 51 people out of the 79 have now completed the Over the Edge event. We've been on the air for almost exactly 5 hours now, with at least 2, maybe 3 hours to go. I'm John Busby, along with Jimmy Smith. I'm a longtime staff member of Special Olympics. Jimmy is the head of the production team here, a crew of at least 4, maybe 5 people who are bringing you all these different angles. We have a camera on the roof, a camera in the landing area, and a camera, the view that you see right now, out near the street, pointing up so that you can see the folks come down there.
So that's cutting in and out. That's a little bit of the weather affecting us here. This is Raymond Cool.
All right, so Raymond Cool is going to be coming down on the blue rope. And he works for Sprint. We do not have any biographical information on him to share with you. So we don't have the benefit of that. You can see there a couple talking points. You can see the radio that's attached to his shoulder, and you heard one of the edgers, or if you weren't tuned in, one of the edgers about 20 minutes ago who locked up on her way down. It means she was going a little too fast, and the mechanism as a safety feature locks up. And she was able to communicate with the people at the top of the roof who talked her through. Even though they go through it in training, it's one thing to be standing on the roof being told this is what you do if you lock up. It's another thing if you're in the air 10 stories off the ground and you lock up. But either way, it was resolved very quickly, and she was able to get herself the rest of the way down, had a big smile on her face when she was talking about it here in the production room. And so getting ready to go down is Raymond Cool, and it looks like he's got a GoPro on his helmet. We've seen a few of those go down. The rule for what you can take down on your rappel is the final word is the technicians who make that final decision, but typically GoPros are allowed to be strapped to the helmets. Yesterday, Brian Sosha of WSDW, he actually had a phone duct taped to his arm with an earpiece in and a microphone so that he was broadcasting live as he was rappelling. And I heard bits and pieces of it when the live remote was downstairs, was here, and it was fun to listen to his explanation of what he was going through. As you can see the technicians there, and again, I was just talking about the ropes that people are tied to. Everybody up there who is a technician is tied, harnessed and tied to a foundation up there to continue to emphasize the safety that goes into this. As you can see, Raymond Cool trying to get set there. His blue helmet there in the background. You can see I-95 right behind him. That tower you see in the distance is the Rockford Park Tower. And so you can see the view that people get from the skyline of Wilmington out there. There is the landing zone. You see the umbrellas popped up if you're just tuning in. It is drizzling. Outside has been for about an hour. It looks like it's going to be probably for the remainder of the event based on the radar that we are seeing. You see 3 volunteers there. We can't emphasize enough and thank them enough, the folks who came out to volunteer for this event. There are 3 full-time staff members from Over the Edge who are involved in the technical aspects of this event. Everybody else, and there's probably close to 10 other people, maybe a dozen, who are involved as rope handlers, safety people upstairs, all experienced ropes people one way or another who are involved in this event. And without them, we can't do this event because it takes that many people, and those positions can't be filled by people like Jimmy and I who know nothing about rappelling. And so we can't thank those volunteers enough. If they tune in and listen to some of this broadcast later on, or if somebody is who knows them, please express to them how valuable they are to this event. Up there on the right, the view you're looking at, you can see Raymond cool. You can see barely his feet, and that's about what it looks like when you're outside looking up. It looks like a spot. And I remember my son telling me when I did this a few years ago, he said, "Dad, when I saw you peek over the edge, you looked like a little dot up there." And so you're getting the true camera angle here, and it's another one of the reasons we like this camera angle, because you really get the feeling like you're here, because that is the view from down. It's not zoomed in, it's not zoomed out. That's what the people on the ground are looking at. Those out there enjoying the festivities and the food and the refreshments provided by TD Bank. We are inside, fortunately, with the rain, but sometimes I wish, Jimmy, that we were outside enjoying the atmosphere. But it's times like this where I'm glad that we are inside, nice and dry.
Yeah, I mean, when you get somebody who brings a lot of family or fans, it's so cool to hear, and we're hearing it through the crowd mic in our mics, and it's just so cool to hear that and feel that and see the cheering. But you're right, today it's a little wet, so being in here is definitely the right call.
Yeah, we've seen people come and go, and Mark Wise is sitting in here with us. He's the guy you've seen 1,000 times in the landing zone in charge of getting people out and their equipment off, and he's a little bit wetter than we are sitting in here. Mark went over yesterday. He was the Special Olympics staff member we've talked about who went over yesterday, and he had a dry experience and a good experience. He successfully did it and came down without any problems. And you heard Nancy Gallagher a few minutes ago, a member of our board who's done it for 5 years, say that the experience was no different from a safety standpoint and a traction standpoint in the rain than it has been her previous 4 years. And I don't remember, and Mark, maybe you can help me here, I don't think we've ever had rain of any kind. First time, yeah, he's reaffirming that it's the first time we've had rain of any kind. And when we think about it, we really have been lucky, because this time of year is when you can have storms blow through. And as I've said, looking at the radar, it doesn't look, and I don't want to jinx us, that at least there's not going to be lightning that comes through, which would shut down the event until it cleared out. But when you think about this time of year and the number of times, think about the rain we've had recently. It's supposed to be a nor'easter for the next 2 days, and the fact that we're going to be able to squeeze this event in, even if we have to go to a delay, which we're all hoping we don't have to do. If we do have to go to a delay, it's going to be just that. It's not going to be a postponement until the next day. But people are prepared for that. Those who came in from out of town had to book flights accordingly, and those who drove in and are spending the night in hotels had to book hotels in the event of that as well. So there is the preparation and the forethought to do that. But fortunately, I think today we're going to be fine. Maybe a little wet when it's all said and done. But Raymond Cool is about halfway down. We're waiting to see who's going to be up next. Lynette Molnack. Ashley Stetzer was scheduled to go at 1:10. We haven't been told she's not going, but typically we're not behind schedule, so that may be the case where she is not going for whatever reason. But if you've tuned in to see Ashley, I wouldn't tune out yet. We'll try to get an update on that so we can let you know if you're tuned in for that. Melissa Renzi's scheduled, Heather DiRubio, Cindy Carney, who is actually going down in place of Shanique Sanders. So if you've tuned in to see Shanique Sanders go down, I'm not sure of the reason, but she will not be going down. Cindy Carney is going down in her place. Maddie Berkey and Sydney Berkey, two sisters, are going to be going down together later on this afternoon. So they're going to schedule in here. Like I said, we are right on time. Raymond Cool actually scheduled to go down at 2:10. So he's going down almost half an hour ahead of schedule. Now, there were several people scheduled to go down ahead of him. You know, Jimmy, a couple things could have happened. One, somebody decided I'm not going down in the rain. I don't care how safe you tell me it is. And you know what? We understand and respect that. Somebody could be stuck in traffic because of the rain. You never know. And also there are situations, I mentioned the Berkey sisters. They certainly want to go down together.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the technicians, they do a fabulous job upstairs of juggling things so that those folks, even if the timing's not perfect for them to go together, they make it so that it is. In fact, Lynette, Melissa, and Heather all work for Brandywine Smyrna Incorporated, and so my guess is they want to go down together, and those would be the next 3 up. So my guess is maybe they told Mr. Cool here, Raymond Cool, why don't you go ahead because we want to try to go down closer together, and somebody was delayed for whatever reason. So
yeah, this
Tami
is
Rogers,
so much
go ahead.
cooler when you can do it with somebody side by side.
Yeah,
so.
There you go. Play on words there by Jimmy Smith. Tami Rogers tweets, way to go, coach and boyfriend Marty, DSRD, and Diane. So a shout out to them. They have come down here. That's from Tami Rogers. Again, if you're using social media, please use #OverTheEdgeDE. That was Tami Rogers with a shout out that says, way to go, coach, boyfriend Marty, DSRD, and Diane. And it looks like there's a clip it looks like they captured the social stream, the live stream, and put it on Twitter. So there, Ray Cool has landed, and so he is down at the bottom. Again, we don't have a bio on him, so we're not sure what it is. But he does work for Sprint. We do know that, and I'm told he is a friend of my colleague, Gary Samaglia, who is the one, I believe, who talked him into doing that. That's Mark Wise, who I just referred to as the man in the yellow slicker who helps with the equipment. He stepped in here for a minute, gave us an update on the weather, and he did the rappel yesterday for the first time. He was the Special Olympics staff member. Each year there's a member of Special Olympics, as you can see, Ray Cool there. Ruth Coughlin is our photographer and also a member of Special Olympics Delaware staff. She has done Over the Edge. Each year a member of the staff does Over the Edge. We firmly believe that we can't ask other people to do something we're not willing to do ourselves. So we are a 10-member staff. All but a few members have done the Over the Edge event. Next year it'll be somebody else's turn, and after that it's somebody else's turn, and then we will probably recycle and start doing it again. Because and it's been fun because we've had different levels of nervousness among our staff. We have a couple people who weren't nervous at all. Mark didn't seem to be nervous the other day. And then we have a couple staff members who are scared of heights, and admittedly so, but have done it and have overcome their fear of heights to complete the Over the Edge event. So, again, if you're just tuning in, we're over halfway, getting close to 3/4 the way through what's going to be an 8-hour broadcast. 79 people going over the edge for Special Olympics, 17 stories, which is 222 feet down the 300 Delaware Avenue building in Wilmington, all to benefit Special Olympics Delaware. 4,200 athletes who participate in 19 sports year-round. This event sponsored by TD Bank, Brandywine Realty Trust, Newcastle County Fire Service. TD Bank provided the reception last night. They're providing the festivities outside today. Brandywine Realty Trust owns the 300 Delaware Avenue building. Obviously, you can't do this event without the building. And Newcastle County Fire Service raises money for this event. They also have several people go over the edge and raise the money to do so. They are the 3 primary sponsors. The supporting sponsors include Delaware Law Enforcement for Special Olympics. They've raised more than $6.5 million for Special Olympics. Their hallmark event is the Torch Run, the 160-mile trek from Rehoboth Beach and other downstate locations up to the Summer Games. It starts Wednesday night, June 7th, in Rehoboth Beach at the bandstand with a tremendous send-off. It's a 30-minute ceremony. A motorcade brings the torch. It then exits. The run begins at that point. I've been down there to MC this event. I'll tell you, if you live anywhere close to it, you have to see it. And if you live far away from it here in Delaware, let's face it, there's no real far away place here in Delaware. Go down and see it. It's worth it. Beautiful summer night and an experience you won't forget, any ages. It's a great experience to see. That torch then goes 160 miles up to the Summer Games, where it will come into the opening ceremony. That is at 12:30 on Friday inside the Bob Carpenter Center on June 9th. And again, if you're available to come out and be a fan during the games, June 9th and 10th at the University of Delaware, We played bocce, tennis, swimming, track, powerlifting. It's just an unbelievable experience. And softball is the 6th event. There are 6 events to come out and see where all of this money goes. We're going to raise more than $100,000 today, which is going to bring the 7-year total over $850,000. Every single dime of that stays right here in the state of Delaware to support the 4,200 athletes. And Delaware law enforcement, a big part of the success, the awareness, the financial stability of this organization. Sheraton Suites, right next door to us here in downtown Wilmington. They provided the rooms at reduced rates for all the folks that need rooms that are involved in this. Delmarva Broadcasting Company, a year-round sponsor, and the Delaware Rock Gym as well. You can see there's a little bit of a break up on the roof, and so we're going to take an opportunity to take a break ourselves and show you a little bit about what Special Olympics is all about.